A beautiful, sunlit mansion stands majestically. A woman in pink tearfully confesses her love. The black-haired man beside her looks away. He thinks for a moment, then refuses her. An awkward silence follows his rejection. He dismisses Lucia's repeated confessions as a game. Hee. Lucia coyly asks if she can even count them. This is Herwin Peneus, a duke's son. He is already a renowned swordmaster. His handsome reputation preceded him since school. He was admired by all his classmates. He smirks, noting her consistency over the years. He playfully reminds her of past confessions. She insists that one of them was an accident. He admits her public confession was unforgettable. His answer is still no. He likes someone else. He leaves a heartbroken Lucia, standing alone. Her hands tremble as she clutches her dress. She forces a smile, knowing he loves Arista. She knew his heart always belonged to another. She recalls her long, one-sided love for Herwin. A painful 13 years of unrequited feelings. Click. Herwin and Lucia enter a drawing room. They join a small gathering for tea. A long-haired man insists they are not dating. Their friends gossip, convinced they're a couple. Herwin announces that they are just friends. He looks away, a bead of sweat forming. A beautiful blonde woman listens intently. The blonde woman, Arista, accepts his answer coyly. Arista changes the subject to Herwin, ignoring Lucia. He turns his back completely on Lucia. Lucia watches them, feeling utterly alone. She forces herself to smile through the pain. She silently hopes he will finally look at her. She resolves to hide her heartbreak from everyone. As evening falls, the gathering concludes. Lucia leaves the party, pretending to be fine. She is stopped by her waiting parents. She is surprised to see them both there. She sadly agrees, knowing nobles marry young. Her parents state they can no longer wait. She is ordered to attend a matchmaking meeting. Her father insists this decision is not sudden. He presents a list of selected suitors. Distraught, Lucia tries to voice her objection. Her mother gently takes her hand to console her. She acknowledges Lucia's 13 years of devotion, but she firmly states their support is over. Her mother tells Lucia it's time to give up. She was the only daughter in a family of sons. Her mother's hand holds hers comfortingly. Her father accepts his responsibility to house Agnes. Lucia begs them for just a little more time. Her father asks her exactly how long she needs. She asks for one last chance to confess to Herwin. Her mother agrees, hoping for her daughter's happiness. But she warns that if Lord Peneus rejects her again, she must give up on him and meet someone else. With a determined smile, Lucia agrees to the terms. She sighs, thinking about the engagement while opening a box. Click. She reveals a locket with a 4-leaf clover. Clutching the locket, she steals her resolve. She recalls the moment she first saw Edwin. A flashback shows their two families meeting in a garden. She was immediately captivated by his black hair. His delicate face was so pretty, like a girl's. Young Lucia was instantly smitten. She finally understood what falling in love meant. Her heart pounded as she realized her feelings. The story is set to continue. Their parents announced the Peneus brothers were visiting. Young Lucia cheerfully introduces herself. She meets two brothers, both with black hair and red eyes. She saw the older boy as a beautiful angel. He reached out his hand to her. Lucia stared at him, completely entranced. She shyly and happily took his hand. Herwin is shocked by her angel comment. He angrily accuses her of teasing him. As Lucia despairs, Herwin shouts that he hates being teased. Her older brother rushes to defend a crying Lucia. Their mothers arrive as Herwin tries to deny fault. He panics and insists that she started it. Wah! A crying Herwin creates a river of tears, marking their first meeting. Later, they sit in awkward silence in a field. He tears up grass while she watches him nervously. Lucia nervously fiddles with her dress. He turns and asks her what she wants. She asks to be friends, wondering if she upset him. He explains that bullies call him pretty, so he hates it. With tears in his eyes, he admits he doesn't hate her. She moves closer, smiling, and he looks at her, surprised. He looks away, unsure how to react. Their brothers watch the scene unfold from a distance. The brothers cheer, teasing them, and Herwin yells in protest. He grabs her hand, shouting that he doesn't like her. She quietly asks if he truly doesn't like her. Flustered, he shouts again that he doesn't like her. With tears in her eyes, Lucia shouts back that she doesn't like him either. She storms off as Herwin yells after her in confusion. Herwin stops, frustrated by her sudden change in behavior. He resents being sent here, blaming a monster wave in the north. He grips the handle of his wooden practice sword. The afternoon sun shines brightly through the tall forest trees. Elsewhere, a crying Lucia insists that he isn't even pretty. Vowing never to like him, she fails to notice glowing eyes in the undergrowth. A sudden rustle makes her stop and look up in surprise. She comes face to face with a snarling black wolf. The wolf leaps out from the foliage, lunging toward her. Heroine catches her, calling out her name in alarm. Lucia clings to him, pointing in terror as the wolf prepares to pounce again. Paralyzed with fear, she tells him she can't get up. Heroine's mind flashes back to being teased for his pretty face. He recalls the cruel whispers, questioning his swordsmanship, and calling him a coward. The voices mocked his perceived lack of talent compared to his father, the Duke. His past fears resurface, and his first instinct is to run away. But seeing Lucia trembling behind him, he knows he can't abandon her. He tightens his resolve, gripping his wooden sword firmly. He stands defiantly between Lucia and the menacing wolf. With a mighty leap, the wolf pounces on him. "Ack!" he cries out as the beast attacks, struggling to fend it off. From behind him, a terrified Lucia watches him fight. She grabs a rock, screaming for the wolf to leave Heroine alone. The rock strikes its target, and the beast whimpers in pain. His wooden sword is shown, now cracked from the force of the attack. Gritting his teeth, Heroine prepares for another swing. He strikes the wolf with all his might. The beast stumbles back, whimpering in hurt. The scene transitions, showing the wolf has finally retreated. Staring after it, Lucia breathes a sigh of relief. Heroine kneels beside her, asking if she's hurt. She bursts into tears, and he scolds her for wandering into the forest alone. He reminds her he warned her not to go, but she retorts, asking why he followed her. Heroine is left speechless by her question. Looking up at him, Lucia offers him a 4-leaf clover. He takes the clover, his face flushing with a slight blush. He asks if she came all this way just to give it to him. Heroine turns away, unable to hide his growing blush. He regains his composure, slinging his sword over his shoulder. A confident smile spreads across his face. Their hands gently clasp together. He helps her stand, and she quietly confirms she's okay. Holding his hand, Lucia feels her heart fluttering. She thinks her heart feels broken, blushing as she holds the clover. A woman in a white dress rushes to Heroine, asking what happened to his clothes. Heroine proudly announces he saved Lucia from a stray dog, just like his father would. The women worry about the boy, asking if he's hurt or went into the forest. One of the women suggests calling a doctor for the boy with the wooden sword. A girl in a yellow dress holds his arm, calling out, "Heroine!" Beaming, she holds up a 4-leaf clover she found. Heroine is stunned by the sudden mention of marriage. He stares in disbelief, trying to process what he just heard. 2 young boys run up, one asking about marriage, and the other exclaiming about Lucia and Heroine. A traumatic memory surfaces of a younger, crying Heroine. He recalls being mercilessly bullied and mocked for crying. The memory reveals Lord Perusis was looked down upon by other children. Due to the persistent bullying, he developed severe trauma. A report notes that he suffers panic attacks when attention is on him. Cruel whispers questioning his parentage and calling him weak-willed echo in his mind as he covers his mouth in distress. Overwhelmed, his only thought is to plead for no one to look at him. A young Lucia finds him in the woods and gently calls out his name. Panicked, Heroine lashes out, screaming at her not to look and that he hates her. Lucia is left shocked and speechless by his harsh words. Heroine immediately regrets his outburst, stammering an apology. Lucia looks down sadly, clutching the 4-leaf clover in her hand. Holding the clover, she quietly asks if he doesn't even want to be friends. She presses him, asking if he hates her so much that he can't even be her friend. Her expression brightens as she excitedly proposes that they be friends. She boldly declares that even so, she will continue to like him. Taking his hand, she promises to keep telling him that she likes him. With her ears and tail drooping, Lucia looks dejected. Heroine leans in close to whisper something in her ear. A young man agrees to their arrangement, and the other children look on. Lucia recalls this memory, noting it was Heroine's answer to her very first confession. In another flashback, a young Lucia surprises Heroine by confessing her feelings for him. At 12, she energetically asks Heroine to go out, repeating her confession. At 15, she proposes marriage, but a weary Heroine asks if she ever gets tired. Time passes as the seasons change, and she turns 18. She confesses once again, but Heroine dismisses her with a tired, yeah, I know. He walks away, leaving her to watch with a bittersweet smile. Back in the present, Lucia lies in bed, reflecting on her numerous past confessions. She realizes why Herwin never took her seriously, admitting she was mostly joking as a child. However, she recalls that when she was 18, things were different. She remembers doing something that Herwin truly despised. She muses that Herwin would have never started to like Arista otherwise. A maid named Sane rushes into her bedroom, prompting Lucia to ask what's wrong. Startled, Lucia sits up as the maid tells her something about Herwin. Lucia frets about her puffy face from crying, but a maid reassures her they can fix it. Two maids expertly apply a face mask and style her hair. Marquis Casper sits calmly, sipping from a teacup. He looks up in pleasant surprise as Lucia enters the room. Lucia, now in a beautiful pink dress, says her unannounced arrival is her fault. He remarks that they just saw each other yesterday, before mentioning a message he received. A clatter interrupts them, and a startled Lucia asks what happened. The Marquis sits with a serious expression, his hands clasped before him. Lucia announces her plan to join the monster extermination. Herwin smirks, revealing his own plans to prove his worth. He explains he is informing everyone of his decision. Herwin appears confident and pleased with himself. Lucia listens to his words with a troubled heart. He smiles, confirming the event is a week away. The reality of the deadline settles heavily upon her. She resolves to make one final confession to Herwin. She desperately hopes that he might finally accept her. She recalls her mother's warning if he rejects her again. She must finally give up and move on. Back in the present, Herwin tells her not to worry. He steps behind her, pulling her into a gentle hug. Stunned, Lucia looks up at him in wide-eyed silence. He pulls her to her feet, leaving her questioning his actions. He confirms he wants to spend a whole day with her. She insists there is something crucial she needs to tell him. He replies that he also has something important to say. He playfully asks her to choose a day to meet. Holding hands, they agree to meet next Friday. Elsewhere, her brother wonders if Herwin knows what's coming. Lucia steals her resolve for her 99th and final confession. Long and complicated history between them is palpable. Evening falls over the magnificent Agnes estate. In her room, Lucia begins preparing a special gift. She wants this last confession to be meaningful. A handkerchief, she muses, is a practical battlefield gift. She reasons he can accept it as a simple friendly gesture. She reflects on his meticulous yet surprisingly dull nature. She carefully embroiders his initial, hoping he'll understand. Her maid reminds her of the upcoming date with Prince Peneus. Her hand trembles slightly as she confirms their plans. The maid sadly wonders when he will notice her lady's love. Lucia softly echoes the thought, her smile tinged with sadness. Lucia laughs, asking why she's being comforted preemptively. The maid flushes, slightly embarrassed by her forwardness. Apologizing, Lucia admits she has a lot on her mind. The maid holds her hand, promising she's always there for her. Lucia playfully asks if she's destined for another rejection. The maid warmly offers to help with the preparations. Haha. The maid, seen, cheers her on, boosting Lucia's confidence. With the embroidered gift finished, she hopes he'll like it. She clutches the gift box, her heart full of hope. The day arrives, and a grand carriage awaits her. Dressed for her date, she takes a calming breath. She straightens her beautiful dress, steadying her nerves. Her eyes widen as she spots him, whispering his name. Herwin waits for her, dressed impeccably for their meeting. Gasp! She's shocked, asking why he isn't wearing his uniform. As they stand by a carriage, Herwin compliments Lucia, and she shyly questions him. Herwin smiles, asking what she wants to do for the day. She cheerfully asks if he's ready to be dragged around by her all day. He asks what she's planning, and she explains she wants to hang out before he leaves, joking that people might think she's bullying him. He thoughtfully agrees it's been a long time since they were alone together. With a soft thump, Herwin helps Lucia into the awaiting carriage. Inside, she happily lays out their plans for a day downtown and a dinner she reserved. With a charming smile, Herwin readily agrees to her agenda. The scene shifts to an elegant restaurant, where a pianist's hands glide over the keys. A fine meal of shrimp and wine is served at their table. Herwin sips his wine, commenting that the atmosphere and food are both excellent. Beaming with joy, Lucia says she's now even more excited for the main course. A waiter with purple hair arrives to present their main course. He announces the two dishes, steak with wine sauce and another topped with fresh mushrooms. Lucia's expression freezes in silent shock. Panicked, she realizes she excitedly ordered mushrooms, which she hates, and debates trying to force herself to eat them. With a nervous laugh, she tries to play it cool, asking Herwin if it looks good. She's startled when Herwin suddenly moves from his seat. Without a word, he reaches over and takes her plate of steak. As a clink sounds, he swaps their plates, telling her to stay still when she protests. Her plate of mushrooms now sits before him, and his is in front of her. She quietly insists it's fine, saying she isn't allergic. As he cuts into the steak, he reminds her of a time she ate mushrooms by mistake and was sick all day. He chides her for not checking the menu, but she sheepishly admits she was just too excited to get the reservation. After taking a bite of the mushroom dish, Herwin pronounces it good. He asks why she's not eating, and she stares back, momentarily stunned. She stammers that she was about to eat, touched that he remembered she can't eat mushrooms. As she eats, she muses that she didn't expect him to swap plates, an act that breaks etiquette, but assumes it's just a kind gesture for a friend. She admits to herself that even these small acts of kindness make her heart flutter. Following their meal, they stroll arm in arm through a sunny, upscale shopping district. Lucia spots a jewelry store and eagerly suggests they go in, to which Herwin agrees. A bell dings as they are welcomed into the bright, opulent shop. The interior sparkles with countless pieces of magnificent jewelry on display. They browse the shining displays, looking at the various pieces together. Pointing to a large blue brooch, she suggests it would suit him and offers to buy it. Herwin gently refuses, noting they've only bought things for him, but she reminds him he promised to let her do whatever she wanted today. Pulling out her purse, she insists on buying it for him, as she'd planned to anyway. A shop attendant informs them about new items while their purchase is wrapped, and Lucia's interest is piqued. Herwin watches her happily browsing for him, wondering why she finds it so fun to buy things for others. He waits patiently, a thoughtful expression on his face. His eyes are suddenly drawn to a beautiful pair of dangling earrings. As the attendant approaches, Herwin asks to see the earrings up close. The exquisite, shimmering earrings sparkle in their display box. He gently holds one of the elegant earrings up to Lucia's ear. A faint, warm smile graces his lips as he admires how it looks on her. After their purchase, a bowing attendant sees them out of the shop. Now carrying shopping bags, Lucia asks Herwin if he had a chance to look around. Herwin remains quiet, a thoughtful and slightly pink-tinged expression on his face. The scene transitions as their carriage waits outside a building at sunset. Seated in a theater, Lucia wonders if Herwin will enjoy the popular play as he glances toward her. A man embraces a woman, saying he's missed her. Nearby, a brown-haired man falls to his knees in despair. He angrily confronts the woman, asking why she chose another. She apologizes to Syrian, admitting she never saw him that way. A man named Matthias holds her hand, vowing to love only her. In a theater, Herwin watches the play unfold on stage. Lucia wonders why their love stories end so differently from the play. On stage, Herwin asks Arista to practice swords, and Lucia cries as she watches. As the audience applauds, the actors playing Matthias and his lover take a bow. From their seats, Herwin and Lucia hold hands, watching the stage. Lucia remarks that the play was unexpectedly fun, and Herwin agrees. Outside, Lucia thanks Herwin, surprised he enjoyed a romance story. He says it wasn't boring and even had funny moments. She looks at him, relieved that he enjoyed their date. Herwin smiles confidently as they walk side by side. She stops suddenly, calling his name to get his attention. He turns back, asking why she stopped walking. Looking down at her, he quietly calls out her name. He decides it's time and presents her with a gift box. Lucia takes the box from him, asking what it is. She confesses her love for Herwin and asks him out. He questions her timing, noting it's only been a week. With a desperate look, she begs him for an answer. He starts to apologize, but she quickly cuts him off. She forces a smile, saying she already knows the reason. A memory from a swordsmanship exam at the academy surfaces. The memory is of a fierce storm and a lone umbrella. A younger Lucia warns a professor about an ogre, urging a rescue for Herwin and Arista. The professor advises waiting for the rain to stop, but a student argues that Herwin and Arista are too skilled to be missing. Another student insists they truly saw the ogre. An abandoned umbrella drops into a rain-filled puddle. A worried Lucia is told Herwin and Arista still haven't returned. Upon learning they are the only ones missing, she whispers Herwin's name in terror. A classmate shouts that someone is approaching through the storm. Figures are seen running through the dark, rainy field. A pair of legs walks towards the waiting students. Lucia rushes forward into the rain, calling out Herwin's name. She sees Herwin supporting an injured Arista as they emerge from the storm. The scene shifts to a medical tent on the academy grounds. Arista explains that Herwin was injured, protecting her from an ogre, and they must inform the knights. The students are amazed, realizing Arista took down an ogre, proving she's a sword expert. A professor gently tells the exhausted Arista to go inside and rest. Arista thanks Lucia for saving Herwin, but Lucia insists he saved her. With a determined smile, Lucia vows to never forget Arista's help. Arista calls Lucia's name, getting her attention. Arista asks Lucia for a favor someday as a sign of her gratitude. Lucia sits by Herwin's bedside, watching over him in the infirmary. She lights up with joy as she realizes he's finally awake. Herwin weakly asks where he is, and she tells him not to get up. He smiles faintly, realizing his widespread bruises are why he aches. Lucia anxiously asks if he is hungry or in pain. He looks at her with concern, pleadingly saying her name. Defeated, she quietly agrees to his request. The memory reveals Herwin and Arista grew closer after that day. She finally asks him the painful question, "Do you like Arista?" Herwin repeats her question, caught completely off guard. Looking down at her, he quietly confirms his feelings for Arista. Back in the present, a concerned Herwin calls out her name. Wow! She pushes his hand away, saying she can't stay for dinner. Turning her back to him, she says she will leave first. He offers to walk her home, but she insists it's fine. As he worries about her safety, she shouts his name to stop him. With tears in her eyes, she begs him to stop making her feel pathetic. She forces a smile, suggesting they greet each other happily next time. With a final, pained smile, she walks away from him. Night falls over the Grand family estate. Opening the door, she quietly announces she is back. A worried man and woman ask if something happened to her. Standing before them, she calmly announces that it is finally over. Her mother looks on with deep concern, whispering her name. Lucia states she will go to the marriage meeting they arranged. Her mother asks if she is truly okay with this decision. Later, in her room, Lucia quietly calls her maid, Sign. The maid turns, answering her lady's call. Sobbing, Lucia laments that her hopes were too high and wonders how to escape the pain. Sign gently embraces and comforts her distraught lady. The maid suggests her pain stems from truly caring for Lord Peneus. Lucia manages a small, tearful smile and says no. Understanding, Sign softly says that her answer is enough. She gently brushes Lucia's hair, advising her to rest for a few days. Lucia quietly agrees, accepting her maid's care. She collapses onto her bed, emotionally and physically drained. She reflects on crying for 3 days straight until she could barely see. Waking up after resting, she realizes Sign was right and feels better. She sits up in her sunlit room, ready to face the day. She picks up a pink diary from her desk. Inside a keepsake box, she finds the pressed 4-leaf clover. Today, Herwin, clutching the diary, she stands by her door with newfound resolve. She vows to herself that she will overcome this growing pain. With a determined gaze, she stands tall and ready. The scene shifts to a man and woman dining together. They greet her as she arrives, asking if she slept well. Her mother welcomes her to breakfast, saying she must be starving. She smiles sweetly, asking if she may join them. Her mother encourages her to eat before they talk. She smiles brightly, apologizing for making them worry. Her father accepts her words, though his expression remains unconvinced. He pauses mid-sip, watching his daughter carefully. Lucia's mother is startled, suggesting they start arrangements tomorrow, but worries it's too soon. Her father looks on seriously, advising not to push Lucia too hard. Lucia's parents smile warmly at her, offering their support. The next day arrives, a carriage waiting outside in the bright sun. Lucia stands by the carriage door, her expression filled with reluctance. Sighing, she admits to herself that she is not looking forward to this. She mentally shakes her head, trying to banish her negative thoughts. A chime sounds as she opens the door to meet her suitor. A dark-haired man in a formal suit stands with a welcoming smile. She shyly introduces herself as Lucia Agnes. He smiles kindly, noting she's arrived early for their appointment. He explains he is inheriting a merchant guild and praises her punctuality, finding her very likable. Taking a sip of her drink, Lucia notes that he's about 5 years older than her. He admits he was surprised by the proposal, having heard she loved another, which she confirms is true. He smiles, saying her situation is reassuring and now he has nothing to hesitate about. Confused by his words, she asks what he means by hesitate. He reveals he also loves a commoner he cannot marry, leaving Lucia asking for an explanation. With a cruel smirk, he compares their unrequited loves, mentioning Lord Perusis. Stunned, Lucia abruptly stands up as he asks where she is going. She glares back at him, utterly disgusted by his proposal. In another meeting, a blonde man gushes about his angelic lover as Lucia listens impassively. He reveals his mother has dementia and he needs a wife like Lady Agnes to care for her. Lucia sighs in exasperation as the blonde man offers a weak apology. A third, younger suitor eagerly discusses having 3 children and skipping straight to the honeymoon. She recalls he spoke of children before they even held hands and begins to reject him, but he interrupts with a warning. His face distorts menacingly as he says everyone has heard the rumors about her. The cruel rumor circulates. What man would want a woman who has loved another for 10 years? Lucia coldly tells him it's not his concern, but he begs her to reconsider. At an outdoor cafe, she wonders if today's suitor will also be strange, noting he is already late. She worries he heard the rumors about her and decided to stand her up. Deciding she has wasted enough time, she stands up to leave. Suddenly, a man with green hair and glasses rushes toward her, panting for breath. He smiles apologetically, asking if she is Miss Lucia Agnes. Surprised by his sudden appearance, she thanks him for waiting. The green-haired man lets out a sigh of relief. He explains an accident made him late, and that he wouldn't have blamed her for leaving. Startled, Lucia asks him what kind of accident occurred. He bows his head, explaining a carriage collision injured a horse and sincerely apologizing. She says he could have rescheduled, but he insists on apologizing in person. She realizes he must have run a long way from the estate just to see her. Softening, she smiles and says his circumstances can't be helped. He looks up with a grateful smile and thanks her for her understanding. Lucia recalls her first suitor also made a good impression and reminds herself not to let her guard down. He sincerely promises to never keep her waiting again if she'll grant him another chance. He makes pleasant small talk, remarking on the nice weather and clear sky. The man with green hair smiles warmly, his expression kind. He recognizes a book she mentions, and she lights up with excitement. He is surprised she knows the obscure book, and she explains a professor recommended it. That's quite a coincidence, she confirms, then immediately worries she shouldn't have brought up the academy. She anxiously wonders if he'll ask about the rumors. The green-haired man laments their age gap preventing a friendship at the academy, and she agrees. He asks if she knows something, and she nervously asks what he means. He reveals a hidden library room, and she feigns ignorance. They enjoy a pleasant conversation at an outdoor cafe. He notes the time, and she admits she was lost in their conversation. She smiles brightly, admitting it was a wonderfully relaxing talk. He agrees, and she's relieved he felt the same way. He confesses he worried she might have left before he arrived. She playfully asks if he ran there, and he admits he did. He felt obligated to apologize if she had been waiting for him. She smiles, saying she's glad she waited for such a wonderful person. Flustered, the green-haired man insists she doesn't have to flatter him. She praises his honesty, calling him Marquis and thanking him. As she decides to leave, he walks with her to her carriage. He calls out to her, and she turns back to him. He nervously asks if he can see her again. With a happy smile, she agrees to his request. He thanks her, promising to send a letter to her estate. Her carriage departs, leaving him behind on the street. Inside, her maid Sign asks if the meeting was a success. Lucia reflects that he didn't mention heroine, and the conversation went well. She wistfully wonders if they could become good friends. Sign declares it a success, noting her lady seems to like him. Lucia smiles knowingly, certain she will see him again soon. On another date, the man says the play exceeded his expectations, and Lucia hesitantly agrees. She reflects on how the happiness of the main couple only highlighted the misery of the one left behind. Lost in thought, she looks away into the distance. Shaking her head, she dismisses her sad thoughts with a smile. Hugh. Her answer delights him, and he cheers up instantly. He asks if she also received the princess's engagement party invitation. She confirms she did, recalling the letter and the simple party plans. The green-haired man gestures warmly, clearly looking forward to the event. A symbolic image shows a ring being placed on a finger. The scene shifts to the grand engagement party. At the party, Lucia holds her escort's arm, looking uneasy. Erwin stands in the crowd, observing with a serious expression. Noticing her discomfort, the green-haired man offers to go alone. She grabs his hand, insisting they go together. He asks her to call him Burn, and she asks him to call her Lucia. Night falls on the grand estate where the party is held. Creak. Returning to her room, Lucia notices a letter on her table. She picks up the envelope, seeing it is from Herwin. Deciding not to overthink it, she prepares to read the letter. He writes that he's returning and hopes to greet her with a smile at the party. She muses on the rare letter, wondering if he felt bad about their last parting. A memory of the kind Burn flashes through her mind. She realizes that with Burn, everyone will know her situation. With newfound resolve, she decides things won't be awkward between her and Herwin. She vows to follow his wishes and smile when they meet. A woman with light brown hair clutches an envelope, her expression resolute. Her parents look on as her mother remarks that Lucia looks ready to be married tomorrow. Lucia smiles warmly, her hair now styled in an elegant updo. She wears a beautiful, ornate yellow gown for the occasion. Her parents express their approval, with her mother thinking the suitor seems to like Lucia. In a cute chibi moment, her mother looks determined while Lucia seems adorably confused. A startled Lucia asks her parents if it is time already. She turns and announces that she will go on ahead. Her parents watch her leave with proud and happy smiles. A refined man with green hair and glasses awaits her arrival. Lucia approaches the man, greeting him as Burn and complimenting his handsome appearance. Burn smiles, pleased that she is wearing the earrings he gifted her. She lightly touches an earring, stating they were the perfect choice for the day. As they walk together, he notes his excellent choice, and she graciously thanks him. Burn says he is very much looking forward to the party, asking how she feels. Lucia shares his excitement, eager to reunite with her friends from the academy. They arrive at a breathtakingly grand mansion, the venue for the party. Inside, a group of young ladies whisper about a man they heard was in the north. Herwin, a man with dark hair and red eyes, stands with a cool, composed expression. He walks confidently through the opulent, golden-hued hall. A blonde woman named Arista explains she's attending the national event on her parents' behalf. Arista leads Herwin onward, telling him their friends are inside. She asks about his time in the north, and he replies that he spent it hunting monsters. Arista becomes excitedly inquisitive about the monsters, much to Herwin's private annoyance. She reminds him that monster subjugations are a rare opportunity for swordsmen like him. A slight, knowing smirk plays on Herwin's lips. He invites her to go monster hunting, and a delighted Arista eagerly accepts his offer. Herwin looks on with a contemplative smile. An annoyed Arista asks what he meant, while he thinks that her only real interest is swords. Arista proudly declares that she is nothing without her sword, having wielded one since birth. Herwin chuckles as Arista reminds him to keep his monster hunting promise. They join their friends at a table where a red-haired man waves and says they were waiting. Herwin greets his friends with a warm smile. Arista takes her seat, dismissing a friend's question about her feelings with a sigh. She complains that Herwin's engagement at least offers a reprieve from her parents' nagging, which another friend relates to. The red-haired man chimes in, noting the parental pressure is rising as their peers get engaged. A long-haired man named Ethan wonders which of them will be the first to marry. The entire table suddenly turns to stare at Herwin, who asks why they are looking at him. Ethan nervously suggests he just assumed Herwin would be first. The red-haired man deflects, saying he thinks Ethan will be first, and Herwin agrees that would be nice. Ethan wishes he could return to the academy to escape the constant nagging. The red-haired man waxes nostalgic, triggering a memory for Herwin at the mention of their academy days. In a flashback, Lucia confesses her feelings, and a younger Herwin casually dismisses her. He recalls that as long as her confessions weren't public, he actually found them fun. Back in the present, a friend asks Herwin if Lucia is attending the party with Lucas. Herwin calmly replies that he last saw her before he left for the north. His friends are shocked, demanding to know if they met alone and what they discussed. Herwin deflects, saying they didn't talk about much as he turns away. A brief, intense flashback shows a worried Lucia at night and Herwin's startled gaze. The sound of a heel clicks as Lucia walks past Herwin and Arista's table. Lucia introduces Burn to her academy friends. Gasp! Her friends are shocked to see Lucia linking arms with a man. Herwin looks up in stunned disbelief, uttering her name. Lucia and Burn confidently approach the table of surprised faces. The blonde woman, Arista, smiles and offers a simple thanks. Burn politely pulls out a chair for Lucia to sit. The couple sits down, facing their friends across the table. Arista curiously asks about the man Lucia arrived with. Lucia and Byrne share a warm, knowing smile with each other. Byrne introduces himself as Byrne Casper, hinting he'll be around more often. Her friends are collectively at a loss for words. In a cute chibi moment, Lucia scolds her friends for being rude. The red-haired man and another friend apologize for their impoliteness. Byrne graciously accepts their apology, while Lucia hides a giggle. Two of her friends ask how she and Byrne met without any prior connection. Byrne explains they met through matchmaking, and she patiently waited for him. Lucia gazes up at him adoringly, touched by his words. A shocked heroine demands to know when she went to a matchmaking meeting. Lucia thoughtfully recalls that it was about 3 weeks ago. Heroine realizes with a start that was when he left for the north. Lucia kindly asks Heroine if he has been well since his return. Byrne gently invites Lucia to meet his own friends. She rises from her seat, bidding Heroine's friends farewell for now. The red-haired man asks Heroine if he knew, but he confirms he was away. Her friend remarks on how close Heroine and Lucia have always been. Heroine solemnly agrees, his expression turning somber. A memory begins, showing them as children outside a large gate. A crying Lucia tells a young Heroine to take care as he reflects on her unchanging nature. From his carriage, young Heroine promises he will visit her again. As she runs alongside the carriage, she yells for him to write to her. A blushing Heroine agrees, a promise he kept even when they were apart. He recalls their letters, one asking about the snow in the north. Their correspondence covered everything from sword training to monster sightings and fending off dogs. Time passed, and eventually they both entered the academy. He made new friends, but his bond with Lucia remained unique. He recalls walking with Lucia, thinking she was the most special person to him. In a flashback, Lucia calls out his name in a sunlit hall. He turns to face her, listening intently. With a radiant, heartfelt smile, she confesses that she likes him. He recalls smirking, thinking she was doing this again. A chibi flashback shows her demanding an answer while he just laughs. Another man calls Lucia's name, interrupting the memory. She recognizes someone named Bianca. A green-haired girl, Bianca, approaches and asks if she interrupted them. Heroine denies they were discussing anything important, prompting Bianca's curiosity. Bianca invites Lucia to the library, taking her by the hand. Heroine suddenly grabs Lucia's wrist, insisting he needs to talk to her. He remembers always treating her confessions like a joke, never imagining them dating. Because Lucia was too precious to him to risk losing over a breakup. His deepest desire was to simply remain her one and only friend. But he laments that, contrary to his wishes, everything changed. With a hopeful smile, Lucia confesses her love for Heroine. Heroine recalls Lucia confessing to him on his 18th birthday. Stunned, he listens as she says she's cared for him since she was 8. He remembers that this confession felt different, far too serious to be a joke. Her words made his heart pound as she prepared to say more. He reflects that he might have accepted her feelings, if not for what happened next. Their private moment is shattered by the cruel whispers of onlookers. The gossip intensifies, and Heroine clenches his fist in anger. Tisk. His frustration grows as he listens to their insults. Lucia reaches out, gently asking if he is okay. Wah! He instinctively flinches, pulling his shoulder from her touch. He turns and flees the room, leaving a stunned Lucia calling his name. After that day, he remembers Lucia began to avoid him at the academy. A blonde woman named Arista asks Heroine if Lucia is still mad. He tells Arista that Lucia is avoiding him, and she listens intently. Arista asks him if he knows what Lucia was told that day. A flashback shows Lucia overhearing vicious rumors about her humiliating rejection. He wonders why she confessed in such a crowded place, recalling it was Bianca's party. An angry Arista explains that Bianca lied to Lucia to isolate her. Heroine is shocked as Arista reveals Bianca planned the entire humiliation on purpose. He looks horrified, realizing a smirking Bianca Lawrence orchestrated everything. Heroine is distraught to hear Lucia blames herself and is now too scared to approach him. He leaps to his feet with sudden resolve. Startled, Arista asks where he's going so suddenly. He declares he is going to see Lucia, and Arista smiles, encouraging him to talk to her. He recalls that he began to like Arista as they grew closer talking about Lucia. A memory of Lucia's painful smile appears as she wished to meet again happily. Now, seeing her with the green-haired man, he questions his own heart. The scene shifts to a grand ballroom, with a glittering chandelier. Lucia enters the glamorous party on the arm of the green-haired man, Burn. She looks around the crowded hall with an uneasy expression. Burn notices her discomfort, and she quietly agrees with him. She forces a smile, claiming she was just a little nervous. He kindly suggests she rest a bit before meeting his friends, refusing. She insists she wants to meet them quickly. She asks about his friends, and he explains they've been close since their academy days. Burn proudly guides her forward through the elegant ballroom. From a distance, she spots Herwin at a table with another man. As his friend complains, Herwin calls out the names Adolf and Hector. Burn approaches the table with a grin, greeting Herwin and his friend. Herwin and the blonde man smile warmly, happy to see Burn. Herwin admits he was worried, but Burn explains he was busy inheriting his title. The blonde man cheekily asks about the beautiful lady, earning a rebuke from Herwin. With a hand on her back, Burn formally introduces Lucia Agnes. Herwin stares in disbelief, asking if Burn is serious. The blonde man introduces himself as Hector Chase, while Herwin remains shocked. As Herwin stands flustered, Lucia calmly tells him it's all right. She nervously explains their surprise is understandable, as Burn kept it a secret. Herwin looks troubled, admitting he never expected Burn to have a fiancé. Burn watches Herwin's reaction, musing that he needs to get himself together. Herwin and Hector congratulate Burn, relieved he's found someone to settle down with. In a cute display, Hector asks Lucia to take care of the lacking Burn. The scene shifts to a grand mansion under a starry night sky. Inside, a magnificent, glittering golden staircase sets a lavish scene. Couples gracefully waltz across the floor of the grand ballroom. Burn approaches Lucia with a charming smile, asking for a dance. With a happy blush, Lucia gladly accepts his invitation. The two twirl elegantly across the dance floor together. Mid-dance, Lucia's expression falters as she spots someone. She sees Herwin dancing intimately with the blonde arista. Her eyes widen in shock as a dark feeling overwhelms her. Noticing her hand trembling, Burn looks down with concern. He pulls her close, gently telling her to look only at him. His words bring her back, and she looks up at him, flustered. Lucia thinks to herself that she's finally relaxed thanks to Burn. She smiles, telling Burn that he is remarkably perceptive. Burn knowingly smiles back, saying her face shows everything. She playfully puffs her cheeks, asking if she's that easy to read, and he chuckles. He spins her gracefully as they continue their dance. Burn leans in, telling Lucia he chose her because they are very much alike. She listens, stunned, as he promises not to pry into her secrets. He smiles warmly and simply thanks her. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls her name, startling her. Herwin stands before her, offering his hand for a dance. She panics, thinking that, while she always dances with him, she must avoid it today. Frozen with indecision, she stares at his outstretched hand. As she stammers an apology, Burn steps in, saying she isn't feeling well. Burn stands protectively between Lucia and a surprised Herwin. Herwin looks past him with concern, asking Lucia if she's truly unwell. Looking away, Lucia lies that she twisted her ankle during their dance. Burn gently supports her, telling Herwin he will take care of her now. Stunned into silence, Herwin can only watch as Burn tells him they are leaving. He watches with a pained expression as Burn leads Lucia away. Outside by a fountain, Burn worries that he may have overstepped. He explains he only intervened because she seemed to want to avoid Lord Peneus. Nodding gratefully, Lucia confirms he was right. Burn turns to leave, offering to get them some drinks. Lucia sits alone by the tranquil fountain under the full moon. She reflects on the strain of pretending to be fine in front of others. Startled by an unfamiliar voice, she turns and asks, "Who is there?" Her eyes widen as she sees a woman with blue-green hair, wondering if it's Bianca. Indeed, Bianca stands before her, an unwelcome face from the past. Lucia stares at her old rival, whispering Bianca's name in disbelief. Bianca coolly greets her, noting that it's been a while. Bianca asks if the seat is taken, and Lucia warily invites her to sit. Surprised by the invitation, Bianca asks if she can really sit there. Lucia reluctantly agrees, turning away with a troubled look. As Bianca sits beside her, Lucia thinks she'd hoped to never see her again. The scene transitions to a sunlit view of a large, stately academy. In a flashback, a younger Lucia smiles while reading a book. In a flashback, other students approach Lucia at her desk, calling her name. She looks up from her book, surprised to see two other girls standing before her. The girls excitedly ask her to introduce them to Herwin, citing her childhood friendship. Lucia smiles politely, declining their request by saying heroine is too shy. One girl pointedly asks if she's sure they're just friends, suggesting Lucia likes heroine herself. Annoyed, Lucia turns and asks what is wrong with them, startling the two girls. Bianca steps in, scolding the girls for being greedy and too scared to approach heroine themselves. Bianca defends Lucia, telling the others to stop picking on someone who is being quiet. Lucia looks up at her defender with gratitude, thinking Bianca's name. She recalls that from that moment, she and Bianca became close friends. While others were jealous of her closeness to heroine, Bianca became her place of comfort. A fond memory shows the two girls laughing and smiling together as friends. As they walk together, Bianca calls out Lucia's name to get her attention. Bianca asks her friend directly if she has someone that she likes. Startled by the question, Lucia quickly denies having feelings for anyone. With a knowing smirk, Bianca calls her a liar and correctly guesses she likes heroine. Wow! Lucia gasps, covering her mouth in shock at being found out. Bianca softens her tone, saying she only asked because they're close friends. Lucia convinces herself that Bianca is trustworthy and that she can confide in her. She shyly admits to liking heroine, and a surprised Bianca asks if it's true. Lucia insists it's a secret, prompting Bianca to ask why she is hiding it. Bianca argues it would stop the other girls, but Lucia says she made a promise to heroine. As Bianca asks about the promise, Lucia recalls confessing her feelings for heroine repeatedly since childhood. Lucia explains that after her public confessions, they agreed she wouldn't do it anymore. She smiles wistfully, saying they promised to just act like friends despite her feelings. Bianca grabs her anxiously, asking what she will do if heroine falls for someone else. Lucia calmly considers the possibility, musing that she would just stay quiet, which shocks Bianca. Bianca passionately insists that she must step in, having waited for him for so long. Touched by her friend's support, Lucia blushes and asks if she really thinks so. Lucia recalls how Bianca's encouragement brought her immense peace and relief. But after that day, she remembers, Bianca began to slowly change. Bianca spreads a rumor, asking if Lucia knew that heroine likes a Lady Lydia. Lucia defends him, saying it's gossip because she already asked Arista, but Bianca presses, asking if she truly believes that. With a cruel smile, Bianca insists that Lady Lydia is just playing with her. Lucia turns away, refusing to believe it and affirming her trust in Arista. A dark premonition hints that not long after, a terrible incident occurred. She remembers the incident at heroine's birthday party where she confessed her love. In front of a large crowd, everyone witnessed her first public confession. Menacing silhouettes of other students point and laugh, surrounding the humiliated Lucia. She became the laughingstock of the entire academy after that day. Back in the present, Lucia recalls never seeing Bianca again or getting to ask why. As Lucia sits by the fountain, Bianca takes her hand and asks how she's been. Bianca probes further, asking if she and heroine are still close or perhaps even engaged. Lucia pulls back, coldly asking Bianca if they were ever close enough for such personal questions. Bianca explains she dropped out of the academy and knows nothing of what happened. With tears welling in her eyes, Bianca offers a heartfelt apology to Lucia. Lucia explodes in anger, demanding to know why Bianca betrayed her when they were friends. Overcome with emotion, Bianca tearfully confesses that she liked heroine too. Lucia stares in stunned disbelief, asking if that was the reason for her cruelty. Bianca confesses her jealousy through tears, as Lucia wonders why she was the one targeted. With newfound resolve, Bianca prepares to explain the real reason she betrayed her. Bianca's true motive is revealed. She hated Lucia more than anyone else. Utterly bewildered, Lucia silently questions Bianca's nonsensical confession. In a stunning revelation, Bianca claims her hatred was because heroine likes Lucia. Lucia turns back in pure shock, unable to believe what she's just heard. The weight of Bianca's claim hangs in the air between the two women. Bianca continues, stating that Lucia was probably unaware of heroine's feelings for her. Again, Bianca claims the root of everything was heroine's secret affection for Lucia. Still in disbelief, Lucia can only utter a stunned, "What?" Lucia vehemently denies the claim, insisting that heroine has always liked Arista. Bianca smiles wryly, telling Lucia she doesn't have to lie about her feelings anymore. A chibi-style panel shows a flustered Lucia struggling to process the conversation. Bianca grabs her, urgently demanding to know about the engagement rumors she heard. With a pained look, Lucia admits things aren't like that with heroine and that she's engaged to someone else. The revelation leaves Bianca completely and utterly speechless. Just then, Byrne returns with drinks, interrupting their tense discussion. He smiles warmly at Lucia before noticing she has a guest. Lucia awkwardly introduces Bianca as an old friend from her academy days. Bianca gives a polite curtsy, formally introducing herself as Bianca Lawrence. Byrne introduces himself in turn, adding that he and Lucia are courting with marriage in mind. He gently offers a glass to Lucia, who gratefully accepts. As they share a drink, Byrne asks if she's feeling better, and she confirms she is. Bianca watches the intimate moment between them with a cold, silent gaze. She abruptly announces her intention to return to the banquet hall. As Bianca turns to leave, Lucia calls out for her to wait. Handing her glass to Byrne, Lucia explains she needs to see Bianca off. Walking with her, Lucia is silent as Bianca asks why she's bothering to see her out. Lucia resolves that she needs to clear the air between them once and for all. She stops Bianca, insisting that everything that happened in their school days was a misunderstanding. She calls the idea of Heroine liking her ridiculous, stating she has already given up on him. Noting Lucia's cluelessness, Bianca wonders if maybe she was mistaken about everything. With a final farewell, Bianca wishes Lucia well with her choice and departs. Lucia is left standing alone in the doorway, stunned by the encounter. The scene transitions to a view of the grand mansion under a starry sky. Later, back in her room, Lucia quietly brushes her long hair at her vanity. She reflects that her soured mood after Bianca's visit must have been obvious. Recalling the moment, Byrne had gently asked if she wanted to go home early. Though she refused, Byrne insisted, explaining he was worried after all that had happened. His simple concern touches her deeply as she thinks his name. She smiles, grateful for his consideration and feeling a sense of peace with him. A knock at the door interrupts her thoughts, and she calls for the person to enter. Heroine appears in the doorway, surprised to see she is still awake. From her seat, Lucia turns and asks what he wants. She explains that she returned early from the banquet because she wasn't feeling well. Heroine reveals he came to see her after hearing about her new marriage partner. Sensing a long conversation ahead, she suggests they sit down to talk. Sitting across from her, Heroine asks directly if she's really engaged to Byrne Casper. Lucia deflects, saying they are just getting to know each other while questioning his sudden interest. He advises her against rushing into marriage, urging her to wait for someone she truly likes. Lucia explains the complicated situation to Heroine, who looks on with surprise. She asks if he really thinks so, explaining that a lot happened while her brother was away. Her brother listens to her explanation with a look of stunned concern. Clutching her chest, Lucia seems to be recalling a painful memory. Her brother asks how many times she confessed, and she hesitantly answers, about 100. He leaps from his seat in disbelief, shouting his shock that Heroine rejected her 100 times. Lucia explains with a sad smile that she went on the blind date to finally give up on him. He then asks if she likes Byrne, but she can only say that they communicate well for now. Clenching his fist, her brother says he hates seeing her in a relationship she doesn't want. Noticing her discomfort, he quickly insists that he's only saying it because he wants her to be happy. He fumes comically, demanding to know who this man is who rejected her so many times. She calmly tells him it's someone he knows, and he urgently demands the name. Upon hearing her reveal it's Heroine Phineas, her brother freezes in utter disbelief. His shock quickly boils into rage as he realizes his friend Heroine is the one who hurt his sister. Running a hand through his hair, he admits he never imagined she'd still like Heroine after graduation. With a sweet smile, Lucia asks her brother to marry for love, for her sake. He agrees on the condition that she must make a promise to him as well. Her brother's expression softens into a warm, genuine smile. Against a background of bright sunflowers, a speech bubble declares, "Okay, I will." Lucia beams with happiness, her joyful expression framed by sunflowers. The scene transitions to the exterior of a grand, elegant mansion. A flood of letters with red wax seals are piled high on a table. An older woman explains to a surprised Lucia that the letters are from people who heard she is being courted by Byrne. Lucia asks with a worried expression what this has to do with the Casper family. A vision of a couple getting married at the altar appears. The woman explains that since both of their houses are highly respected, their union is drawing a lot of attention. Flustered by the thought of uncomfortable gatherings, Lucia immediately declares she doesn't want to go. The woman shrewdly negotiates, promising to narrow it down to only the events she absolutely must attend. She begins sorting through the pile, pointing out the required invitations. Lucia picks up a distinctive green and gold invitation, noting the familiar handwriting. The invitation is a personal request from someone who wants to have a secret conversation with her. Holding the invitation close, Lucia smiles, deciding this is the first place she wants to go. Her companion looks over and asks who sent the intriguing invitation. Lucia says it's from Christine, which prompts the woman to worriedly ask if Heroine will also be there. With a bright smile, Lucia reassures her that it will be a girls-only get-together. The older woman lets out a sigh of visible relief at the news. As her mother continues sorting the non-essential invitations, Lucia gratefully thanks her. The scene shifts to the bright, sunny exterior of a sophisticated-looking cafe. An attendant leads Lucia down a hallway, informing her that Lady Christine has reserved a VIP room. Krieg! Lucia opens the door and cheerfully greets her friends, apologizing for her tardiness. Two women at a table welcome her, saying they've only just arrived themselves. Lucia settles into her chair at the elegantly set table. One friend asks Christine if this is her new business, and Christine proudly confirms her father gave her full authority. The friend internally realizes the meeting was just an excuse for Christine to show off. In a cute chibi panel, Christine tells them to order whatever they want, making the other two girls cheer. A delicious-looking spread of bread and salads is laid out on the table. Her friends lean in eagerly, demanding she spill all the details about her matchmaking with Byrne. Visibly annoyed by their prying, Lucia aggressively stabs a piece of asparagus on her plate. She flashes back to Byrne's somber confession that he loved a commoner whom he could never marry. Snapping back to the present, she blurts out in exasperation that Byrne suddenly told her he has another woman. The woman with bangs and Arista cringe, as the former exclaims how rude some suitors can be. Lucia recalls two terrible past suitors, one who wanted a caretaker, and another who planned a family on their first meeting. The woman with bangs expresses her disgust, while Lucia admits she initially had low expectations for Byrne as well. She reflects that at least Byrne was decent enough to apologize for his mistake. Lucia's expression firms with resolve. Her friend thinks meeting Byrne was lucky, and Lucia confidently agrees. Arista skeptically asks if Lucia really thinks he's a good match. Lucia smiles, explaining she simply got to the goal of marriage a little ahead of her friends. Her friend calls her amazing, admitting she can't imagine matchmaking yet. Lucia asks if their families have started hinting at engagements, startling her friends. The woman with bangs sighs, admitting she might be forced into a meeting soon. Lucia asks her friend what kind of man she'd want if she had to go. Arista confidently declares she wants to marry someone she actually likes. When asked who she likes, a flustered Arista says, "Not yet," to Lucia's playful disappointment. In a cute chibi moment, Arista clarifies she likes swords but not romantically. Lucia wonders aloud who Arista could like as her friends laugh. An image of a determined heroine with his sword flashes in her mind. Lucia looks off with a gentle, thoughtful expression. She warmly reassures Arista that she will find someone she truly loves. Lucia smiles, encouraging her friend that the person she likes might like her back. A grateful Arista thanks Lucia, promising to remember her words. The woman with bangs happily toasts their girls' day and talk of love. She takes a sip of wine, nervously beginning to ask another question. She steers the conversation back to Byrne, but Lucia feels they've already discussed him enough. Her friend clarifies, asking how Lucia's parents reacted to him. Lucia explains Byrne hasn't formally met them yet, but will visit her estate soon. Her friends gasp in shock and excitement at the news of his visit. Lucia beams with a bright, happy smile. At her estate, Lucia compliments a bouquet from Byrne, who says the flowers reminded him of her. Holding the flowers, she gives him a touched and heartfelt thank you. Byrne's eye widens in slight surprise. He smiles warmly, telling her the flowers suit her perfectly. Lucia asks her maid, Cian, to place the flowers in her room. Byrne admits he's surprised by the invitation and asks if her family is around. She explains that her parents and brother are all currently away from the estate. He feels bad that her family missed him, but she thinks to herself that their absence is actually a relief. She dismisses his concern, brightly stating there's a special reason she invited him. A bewildered Byrne stares at a massive pile of invitations on the table. He remarks on the effect of their engagement announcement. As Lucia notes, the overwhelming number of invites. Byrne thoughtfully sorts through the many letters. He sets 2 invitations aside, advising her to skip them due to poor family relations. Handing her a specific invite, he says this one will benefit her, and she gratefully accepts. Byrne asks if there is anything he should be careful about when attending events. Lucia smiles, thinking there isn't anything in particular as the mood darkens. In a dramatic flashback, Lucia warns that he should perhaps be wary of the rumors about her. Burn looks up, startled by her words. The memory of Lucia continues her warning about the rumors surrounding her. Burn remains frozen, his surprise evident. Lucia explains he'll face everything from curiosity to outright ridicule because of her. Burn's expression softens as he reassures a worried Lucia that he is used to such things. A close-up reveals Burn's determined golden eye. Burn holds Lucia's hand, reassuringly telling her that this is not her fault. He gently insists there is no need for her to apologize as she looks at him, touched. Burn offers her a kind and understanding smile. Lucia's heart flutters as she blushes at his considerate words. A radiant smile blossoms on her face as she holds his hands. Lucia thanks him, admitting she feels much more at ease, and he says he's glad. Burn recalls her saying she chose him for their similarities, and he confirms it's true. She confesses that she can't see the resemblance, and still has much she hasn't told him. Burn admits he also has things he's hiding, saying he's not as honest as she thinks. He firmly clasps her hands as she says she doesn't know what he's hiding. Lucia smiles warmly, hoping for a day when they can share everything with each other. Burn smiles back in agreement, softly saying, "Me too." The couple shares a tender moment, holding hands across a table surrounded by blooming red roses. The scene changes to a training hall where Heroine practices his swordsmanship while Jerome watches. Heroine grips his sword tightly, his expression one of intense concentration. Jerome sighs, wondering how many hours Heroine has been training tirelessly. Heroine's attendant, Jerome, pulls a handkerchief from his pocket. Startled, Heroine turns around, asking what's going on. Jerome approaches, asking if he has been training too hard, as Heroine lets out a weary sigh. He begs his master to take a short break, offering him the cloth. "Damn it," Heroine mutters, wiping the sweat from his brow. Jerome asks if something is troubling him, but Heroine dismisses the question. Jerome pleads for pity, explaining that Heroine's bad mood has cast a gloom over the entire mansion, and people are whispering that he's gone mad. After his outburst, Jerome covers his mouth in shock, as Heroine wonders if he's really seemed like a madman. Heroine sighs in resignation, admitting he must have appeared that way for days. Jerome timidly asks if he's angry, and offers to listen to any of his worries. A small, weary smile touches Heroine's lips as he rests his chin on his hand. Jerome asks whose story Heroine wants to tell, but Heroine says it's about a friend he doesn't know. He begins telling a story about a friend who was confessed to many times by a childhood friend, but always rejected her. He continues, explaining the friend recently appeared with a fiancé, while Jerome thinks the story sounds suspiciously familiar. Jerome suggests it's a good thing, since the girl has finally moved on to someone else. The two men stand in silence, contemplating the situation. A flash of images shows a concerned Heroine as he says his friend is confused. In a chibi-style panel, a baffled Jerome questions why the friend would be confused when he's the one who did the rejecting. Jerome lays out the confusing timeline, wondering why the friend is the one who's upset. Heroine clarifies that his friend just seemed to be in a very bad mood. Jerome has a sudden insight, suggesting the friend might be feeling slighted. Heroine looks up, puzzled by the term slighted. Jerome explains that as close childhood friends, they should have shared news of an engagement. He theorizes the friend feels they are no longer as close as they once were. Jerome concludes the friend feels left out for not being told sooner, as Heroine quietly listens. Jerome speculates that perhaps his friend is harboring some other kind of feeling. "Of course he isn't," Heroine shouts, his face flushing with anger. Startled, Jerome reminds his master he wasn't talking about him, but Heroine insists it's not like that. Heroine's hand drops to the hilt of his sword. Announcing he's going to wash up, he turns and walks away. Jerome watches him leave, worrying that their chat only made things worse. The scene shifts to an empty chair beside a desk holding a glass and a small box. A person's bare foot steps onto the floor with a quiet creak. In his room, Heroine wonders if he's feeling slighted by Lucia. He takes a drink, contemplating the word slighted. Thud. He sets his glass down beside a small, ornate box. With a sad look, he picks up the box. He opens it, revealing a pair of beautiful earrings he thinks would suit Lucia. A memory of Lucia turning away, announcing her departure, flashes through his mind. Back in the present, he gives a small, wistful smirk while looking at the gift. He recalls that the earrings she used to wear were too plain for her. The realization hits him with a jolt. He sighs, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Setting the box down, he again wonders if this is what being slighted feels like. He stares grimly ahead as the image of Lucia and Burn hovers in his thoughts. The scene shifts to a bright, sunny garden party. Arriving at the party, Lucia admits to herself that she's more nervous than she expected, despite her family's connections. Her heels click on the stone path as she approaches the table of ladies. An older woman asks if Lucia is ready for the introduction, and she nervously agrees. Lucia takes a moment to compose herself, smoothing her elegant yellow dress. The ladies welcome her as Lady Agnes, complimenting her youthful debut into society. Lucia demurs when a guest says she won his heart, calling the praise too generous. Her host points out that some jealous young ladies are already glaring her way. Indeed, two women whisper cattily behind a fan. Nearby, a sad-looking, orange-haired woman in a green dress looks downcast. Lucia feels their hostility, but resolves not to appear weak. Her host warns her to expect envy, but Lucia confidently retorts it's not her fault. Her fiancé is so remarkable. She concludes that she will simply have to accept it as her fate. With a brilliant smile, Lucia embraces her new position with resolve. Impressed, her host sips her drink and agrees that such resolve is necessary. The other ladies chuckle, praising her spirited mindset. Lucia feels a wave of relief, glad her confident response was well received. The older women continue to observe her with approving smiles. A hand rests on the table as the host watches on. Lucia offers a polite and simple thank you. Feeling exhausted by the social maneuvering, she decides to step away to clear her head. She walks alone down a beautiful path lined with blooming red roses. Whoa! She turns, startled by an unexpected presence. It's the orange-haired woman from the party, standing among the roses. The woman looks up, clutching her hands nervously. Confirming it's her, Lucia asks who she is, and the woman apologizes for not introducing herself. The woman shyly introduces herself as Celine J, correcting it to Romario. Celine timidly asks if Lucia is truly Marquise Casper's fiancé. Lucia explains they are not yet officially engaged, but, she adds firmly, they have promised to marry, which leaves Celine speechless with shock. Celine asks if that answers her question, and in that moment, Lucia realizes this woman has feelings for Bern. Celine suddenly grabs Lucia's hand, asking her to wait. Stopping, Lucia asks if there is something else. Blushing furiously, Celine asks if Bern ever mentioned her. Her gloved hand gently covers Lucia's. Immediately embarrassed, Celine turns away, asking Lucia to forget she said anything. Lucia's eyes widen with dawning pity and understanding. Sniff hic, tears begin to fall as Celine starts to cry. Watching another woman cry, Lucia thinks it's hard to watch because it reminds her of her old self, but feels she's not in a position to offer comfort. Sniff hic, as Lucia walks away, the upset woman follows behind her on the garden path, still crying. In a lavish office, Lucia's brother sighs heavily while working across from a blonde man. Ugh. A sound of frustration escapes as the camera focuses on a piece of furniture. The blonde man smirks, asking what the problem is this time, while Lucia's brother dismisses it as nothing. With a condescending smile, the blonde man tells him to stop sighing and just explain what's going on. Lucia's brother nervously refuses to talk about it. The blonde man presses him, asking if he's sure and threatening to cut his pay if he doesn't get back to work, while Lucia's brother internally panics about the threat. The blonde man nervously explains that he's met Marquise Casper for work a few times, but doesn't really know him. Lucia's brother looks up, suspicious, wondering if the blonde man is digging for dirt, while thinking he's seen Casper somewhere before. The blonde man reveals Lucia sometimes goes on dates with Marquis Casper, stunning her brother into silence. Anger max. Lucia's brother grits his teeth in fury as the blonde man repeats the news about Lucia's dates. The blonde man nonchalantly waves a hand, asking if Marquise Casper has done something wrong. Her brother, clutching his head, says it's not that, but that Casper seems oddly familiar, possibly from the academy. Tapping his papers, the blonde man dismisses his concerns, saying it's been too long since graduation for him to remember anything. The blonde man insists he's heard something about Casper before, prompting Lucia's annoyed brother to shout at him to get back to work. Creak. An attendant opens the door, announcing a visitor for advisor Lucas, a woman named Becky. Lucas leaps to his feet in surprise, questioning if Becky is really here. With a sigh, Lucas decides to see her and finish his work later, as the blonde man watches with a sly smile. The blonde man smirks to himself, thinking he should dock Lucas's pay for leaving work. Lucas pushes open the grand double doors to another room. Honey, a woman named Becky, greets him warmly, holding a heart-shaped box. Becky embraces a delighted Lucas, explaining that she missed him and brought him some cookies. Touched, Lucas happily accepts the heart-shaped gift, asking if she brought it just for him. Becky smiles, explaining she has another appointment and has to leave soon. Lucas offers to walk Becky to the front gate, still holding her gift. While they walk, Lucas asks Becky if she happens to know Marquise Casper, surprising her. He explains that Casper might become his sister's fiancé and that he seems strangely familiar to him. Lucas resolves to investigate Casper properly, wanting to protect his sister from shady nobles, especially those who cheat while engaged. With a confident smirk, Lucas believes that no secret can stay hidden forever, and he'll find something if he looks. Becky's eyes glint with a dark aura as she offers to look into Marquise Casper for Lucas. The scene changes as a horse-drawn carriage pulls to a stop on a city street. Bern Casper apologizes for being late to a woman with long platinum blonde hair. As they walk, the blonde woman asks why he suddenly wanted to meet, and Bern admits he was feeling stifled. She looks at him with concern, noting that he doesn't look well. Bern dismisses her concern, shaking his head, which she finds boring. With a kind smile, the blonde woman reassures him that she is always there to listen. Bern thanks her, calling her Arista, and smiles softly. Arista beams, looking confident with a sword at her side. Bern imagines marrying Arista, thinking how special she is, and that he'd be upset if she married a weird guy. He then recalls seeing Lucia happily interacting with a man in glasses, admitting the news of her engagement was disappointing. A warm smile spreads across Bern's face against a backdrop of blue roses. Arista playfully points a finger at Bern, catching his attention. She asks if the Duke is still giving him trouble, and Bern's expression sours. Arista explains the Duke has always hated her swordsmanship, and is now more obvious about it since she's of marriageable age. Bern offers to buy her a longsword instead of a dagger, making Arista's face light up with excitement. She eagerly asks if he's serious and won't back out, and he confirms he's not lying. The scene shifts to the exterior of a fine-looking shop on a sunny day. A pair of well-dressed legs step through a doorway onto a welcome mat. The green-haired man from Bern's memory explains to a smiling Lucia that he brought her along because he thought she'd have a better eye for things, which she is happy to do. At a fine jewelry shop, a clerk welcomes a green-haired man and Lucia, complimenting them as a beautiful couple. Startled by the clerk's assumption, the man and Lucia exchange a surprised glance. The green-haired man chuckles, clarifying they are there to find a birthday gift for his mother. Understanding, the clerk brightens up and offers to guide them immediately. As they walk, Lucia agrees, calling the man Vern. The clerk presents a tray of assorted colorful gems for their consideration. Vern strokes his chin, pondering the difficult choice before him. Lucia helpfully suggests they look at blue gemstones, and the clerk readily agrees to fetch them. Vern looks at Lucia, touched that she remembered his mother's favorite color. He admits he felt it was premature to ask for her help since they aren't officially engaged yet. Vern expresses his gratitude, complimenting her superior taste, which makes Lucia smile shyly. Blushing, Lucia tentatively asks why he felt it was premature. Vern's expression becomes thoughtful as he considers his response. He apologizes for asking something unnecessary, but she insists it's nothing she needs to hide. Lucia's face glows with warmth at his kind words. Vern is momentarily dazed, lost in thought. With a genuine smile, Lucia tells him she's glad there's something she can do to help. Jingle, the shop's door opens as a voice says, "A gift isn't necessary, but it's a thank you for a sword." Lucia and Vern turn to see who has just entered the shop. Herwin stops in his tracks, shocked to see Lucia, as the blonde woman beside him smiles brightly. Flustered, Lucia recognizes the newcomers as Arista and Herwin. Arista approaches with a friendly smile, asking if they're interrupting a date, but Lucia explains they're gift shopping. Herwin politely greets her, addressing her as Lady Lydia. Herwin shares a pleasant smile with Arista. Lucia looks visibly uncomfortable from the unexpected encounter. Putting on a smile, Lucia asks what brings them to the same shop. Arista seems hesitant, but Herwin explains that they were out shopping together. Lucia offers a strained smile, wishing them well on their outing. Arista cheerfully suggests they all look around the shop together. Lucia agrees, asking Vern if he minds, as she wants to get to know his friends better. Herwin smiles, seeming pleased with the new arrangement. The four of them now stand together at the jewelry counter. As the clerk presents a sapphire, Vern and Lucia examine it closely. Lucia subtly glances over at the other pair. Herwin asks for Arista's opinion on an earring she's trying on, and she seems to approve. Lucia realizes with a pang that Herwin is buying Arista a gift. Clasping her hands, she wistfully thinks that being with someone you like looks fun. Lucia, Vern's voice suddenly cuts through her thoughts, startling her. Vern holds up a delicate necklace with a beautiful, light green gemstone. He asks if the necklace is for her, leaving Lucia momentarily speechless. He gently fastens the necklace around her neck. Lucia touches the cool gem, her eyes wide with surprise. Vern studies the necklace on her, thoughtfully concluding that it suits her perfectly. He tells the clerk he'll buy both the sapphire for his mother and the necklace Lucia is wearing, much to her shock. With a kind smile, Vern tells her the gift is also a thank you for her help. Overwhelmed by his generosity, Lucia beams with pure joy. As Vern pays, Lucia stands by, still cradling the unexpected present. She touches the necklace, realizing Vern must have sensed her troubled mood. Stealing her resolve, Lucia tells herself to pull it together and focus on the kind man who just gave her a gift. Vern turns to her with a gentle smile, asking if she's ready to leave. Lucia asks about the gift for his mother, and Vern confirms it will be delivered. To thank him for the necklace, Lucia offers to treat Vern to dinner. Vern accepts her invitation with a warm, gentle smile. Just as they're leaving, Arista appears and asks if Lucia is heading out for dinner. Arista turns to a stoic heroine, asking what his plans are. Heroine suggests that if she's hungry, perhaps they should eat too. Arista eagerly suggests they all go together, much to Lucia's surprise. She quickly adds that it's only if Vern, the Marquis, is okay with it. He readily agrees. Thrilled, Arista pulls Heroine along, who reluctantly agrees to join them. As the four walk together, Arista asks where they're going, and Lucia suggests a nearby restaurant. Lucia freezes, suddenly realizing it's the same restaurant she went to with Heroine. Her hesitation is noticed by Arista and Heroine. Arista kindly asks Lucia if something is wrong. Lucia quickly brushes it off with a smile, saying they should get going. The scene shifts to the warm, bustling interior of the fine restaurant. At their table, Arista smiles pleasantly. Arista mentions it's her first time at a place like this, but Heroine reveals it isn't his. He confirms he's been here before, complimenting the food and atmosphere. Lucia worries that Vern might be bothered by the fact she's been here with Heroine. To change the subject, Lucia asks Vern if he has chosen his order yet. Lucia smiles to herself, fondly remembering a dish Heroine ordered on their last visit. Vern silently observes Lucia, who seems lost in thought. She's startled back to the present moment. Pointing to the menu, Vern suggests the popular truffle steak. Lucia's face falls as she realizes Vern is unaware she can't eat mushrooms. When she tells him, an embarrassed Vern apologizes and promises to be more careful. Lucia says it's fine, while an unseen voice scolds Vern for not knowing his fiancé's dietary needs. Startled by the sudden criticism, Vern looks up and asks, "Pardon?" Heroine explains that mushrooms make Lucia ill for days, and Arista admits she had forgotten. Vern smiles reassuringly at Lucia, promising to be more careful in the future. Touched by his concern, Lucia agrees with a confident smile. Heroine then gently chides Lucia for not mentioning her food restrictions to Vern sooner. Vern immediately takes the blame, insisting he should have been more considerate. Arista proposes a simple solution, a steak without mushrooms for Lucia, while she tries the truffle one. When Arista asks for his order, Heroine says he will have the same as her. Lucia silently notes that he's ordering the same dish he had with her. Vern suddenly asks Lucia if she has been to this restaurant with Heroine before. She admits she has, apologizing for not saying so, but Vern kindly tells her it's alright. He smiles, reminding her they're still getting to know each other. Lucia looks at Vern with a soft, appreciative smile. Vern and Lucia share a warm moment while Arista and Heroine watch from across the table. Arista observes them with a complicated, unreadable expression. The four of them begin their meal together at the restaurant. Vern asks if she has any other food restrictions, but Lucia says she doesn't think so. She admits she was worried about being seen as picky, but knows she needs to be more open. Vern relates, confessing he is also a picky eater, which surprises Lucia. As he eats, Lucia gasps in shock, exclaiming that he hates carrots. Wiping his mouth with a napkin, Vern lets out a sigh of relief, admitting it was tough. He confesses with a charming smile that he just can't bring himself to like carrots no matter how often he tries. Vern finds common ground in their picky eating habits, and Lucia thoughtfully murmurs his name. Lucia blushes, touched by their shared moment of understanding. Across the table, Arista advises Vern not to force himself next time, noting how pale he became, and he just laughs. Heroine quietly sets his fork down on his plate. Herwin maintains a stoic expression as he cuts into his meal. A staff member approaches their table, apologizing to Vern for interrupting his meal. Vern asks what the matter is, and the man leans in to speak privately. The man whispers something urgent, and Vern's eyes widen in surprise. A shadow of shock and concern crosses Vern's face. He stares blankly into the distance, uttering a stunned, "What?" Vern stands abruptly, announcing he must leave due to an urgent matter. Lucia gives him a bright, understanding smile. With a hand to his chest, Vern gives a slight bow before departing. Lucia watches him leave with a look of concern. Arista stretches contentedly, exclaiming that the food was delicious. Lucia brightly announces that she will pay for the meal. Herwin looks down at his barely touched food, surprised. As Lucia stands, Arista asks Herwin why he didn't eat, and he replies that he lost his appetite. Lucia gazes at Herwin, her expression filled with worry. Herwin reassures her that he's fine and she shouldn't worry. Lucia smiles and suggests it's time for them to leave. The heavy restaurant doors swing open as they depart. Outside, Lucia turns and asks if the other two are heading home. Herwin and Arista glance at each other, admitting they have no other plans. Panicked, Arista clutches her head, suddenly remembering she was supposed to be home early. Lucia comforts Arista, telling her it's still early enough, and Arista asks if she's sure. Waving cheerfully, Arista announces she'll be leaving first. Herwin sighs in fond exasperation at Arista's antics as Lucia smiles. Lucia asks Herwin if he is also going home now, and he quietly agrees. Herwin begins to walk away. He suddenly stops in his tracks. Looking unwell, Lucia presses him, asking if he's truly not sick. Herwin insists he's fine, but she points out that he didn't eat and looked unhappy the entire time. Herwin seems to realize with some surprise that she does worry about him. Lucia admits she thought he wasn't interested in her, but Herwin clarifies that of course he's worried because they're friends. Lucia lets out a frustrated sigh, as Herwin asks if something is wrong. Herwin presses further, noting her uncharacteristic behavior toward Byrne. He looks away, admitting that he supposes he did act strangely. Lucia playfully teases him for talking like it's someone else's problem. Herwin clarifies he's talking about Marquis Casper, leaving Lucia confused. He expresses his deep suspicion of the Marquis. Stunned, Lucia questions why he would be suspicious of Byrne. She defends Byrne, insisting he's a good person who even ate carrots he hates just for her. Lucia concludes that Byrne is too good for her, as he accepts her for who she is. Herwin's eyes narrow, questioning her phrase, "Someone like you." Lucia is left shocked and speechless by his sudden intensity. Resigned, she closes her eyes, thinking she can't help feeling that way. She recalls a memory of confessing her love to Herwin countless times. In her memory, Herwin rejected her every single time, but she resolves not to blame him for it. Lucia smiles serenely, thinking she's fine because she has Byrne now. Bidding Herwin farewell, Lucia tells him to be careful, and he says the same to her. As the carriage door creaks shut, Herwin watches her climb inside. Herwin stares with a somber expression as the carriage departs. Just as his own carriage is about to leave, Herwin suddenly tells his driver to wait. He knocks on Lucia's carriage door, saying he needs to speak with her. A surprised Lucia opens the door, asking what Herwin wants. He hesitates, looking down as he struggles to find his words. Herwin finally confesses that he was in a bad mood today. Lucia looks at him, her expression softening with concern. She asks if his mood was her fault, but Herwin denies it. He admits he was flustered to hear his childhood friend was getting engaged. Herwin adds that he was particularly surprised she went on a blind date. He looks away, confessing he never thought she'd do something like that. Lucia thinks bitterly that she only did it to forget him, and that he couldn't possibly understand her feelings. She tells him they are adults now, and things are different from their time at the academy. Herwin forces a slight smile, reluctantly agreeing with her. Lucia then asks Herwin to root for her and her new relationship. She asks for his support in getting along with Byrne, reminding him they're friends. Herwin remains silent, his expression growing dark and conflicted. Lucia says she's leaving and tells him to go home. He quietly agrees. He turns his back to her and walks away from the carriage. The carriage clatters away, leaving Herwin standing alone on the street. Herwin remains motionless, his feet planted on the stone road. He inwardly agrees with her words, questioning why he can't bring himself to support her. The scene shifts to a sweeping view of the Grand Marquis of Casper's estate at dusk. Vern walks down a lavish hall and asks where his mother is. A servant confirms she's in her room. Reaching her room, Vern calls out gently to his mother. His mother, resting in bed, tells him he didn't need to come for such a trivial matter. He rushes to her bedside, insisting her collapse wasn't trivial, and asks if she's better. Sigh. He urges her to stop overworking, blaming it for her collapse. She explains that, with his father gone, she feels she must contribute to the family. Noticing he just came from outside, she worries that he rushed back because of her. Vern looks away, admitting he wasn't out on business. His mother's expression brightens as she asks if he met someone. He confirms he met Lady Agnes, and his mother excitedly asks if it was a date. She mentions hearing good things about her, brushing off some rumors as she notes Vern has his own flaws. Vern looks down, quietly reminding her they agreed not to discuss that topic. He stands to leave, stating he'll go since she seems well. His mother calls out his name with a look of concern. With his back to her, Vern tells his mother not to worry. He promises he won't go against his parents' wishes. His mother watches him leave, her expression filled with worry. The scene changes to a bright, sunny day on a beautiful balcony. A lady compliments another woman on her new necklace, which she says was a gift. Lucia quietly sips tea, observing the social gathering. Her eye twitches as she realizes there's another complication. She recognizes Celine Lemarian, surprised and dismayed to run into her again. Worried Celine will cause a scene like last time, Lucia is interrupted by someone calling her name. Startled, Lucia turns as another lady asks for her opinion. Lucia looks flustered, trying to remember what they were talking about. As Lucia agrees with a smiling friend, another woman exclaims that she knew it. A lady in purple turns to Lucia, asking if it's true she has been seeing someone. Another lady eagerly asks Lucia to tell them how she and her new partner met. Lucia glances at Celine Lemarian and internally steels herself to answer the question about Vern. Putting on a pleasant smile, Lucia demurs, saying it was nothing special. She explains she met the Marquis through matchmaking, and they get along well. The other lady excitedly asks if the necklace she's wearing is a gift from the Marquis. The lady in purple looks on with a pensive expression. She suddenly asks if this means Lucia no longer has feelings for Prince Peneus. Lucia laughs nervously, feigning ignorance and asking what she means. The lady in purple smirks, reminding her that everyone knows she's had feelings for the prince. She presses further, asking if she's wrong, as Lucia blushes with discomfort. Lucia's expression becomes serious and composed as she prepares to answer. She admits she used to have feelings for heroine, but insists it's all in the past. She states that it's been 3 years and she doesn't see why it's still a topic. The lady in purple scoffs, asking if she truly let go of her feelings that easily. Lucia inwardly admits she only let go of her feelings for heroine very recently. Out loud, she firmly confirms that she has indeed moved on. Trying to diffuse the tension, the other lady suggests they change the subject. The lady in purple abruptly stands, announcing she needs to step out for a moment. She turns and walks away from the table. Lucia looks down at her teacup, clearly distressed by the confrontation. She walks through a garden, thinking how uncomfortable she is around people she doesn't know well. She overhears someone talking about that girl and wonders who they mean. Hiding, she sees the lady in purple, clarifying she was talking about Lady Agnes. The lady in purple notes that Lucia seems fragile but gives blunt replies, which her companion disagrees with. Lucia sighs in frustration, thinking how rude the other woman is. The blonde lady asks if it's true Lucia is dating the Marquis, and the other woman confirms it. The lady in purple then expresses her concern for Viscountess Lemarian, piquing Lucia's interest. Her companion asks why she's worried, and the lady in purple asks if she hadn't heard the rumor. Lucia is stunned to overhear that Viscountess Lemarian and the Marquis of Casper used to be in a relationship. Lady adds that they dated until very recently, shocking her companion. Hearing the Viscountess was forced into her marriage, a horrified Lucia wonders why she's still eavesdropping. Believing it's rude to listen any longer, she quickly turns to leave. She walks away, processing the shocking revelation that Vern and Selland were lovers. She stops dead in her tracks as a terrible thought occurs to her. She remembers Vern telling her he chose her because she reminded him of someone. The pieces click into place as she realizes what he must have meant. Her face falls, etched with confusion and a dawning sense of heartbreak. Her hands hang limply at her side, a picture of defeat. The scene shifts to a large, elegant mansion under the light of a full moon. Back inside, Lucia sighs in exhaustion, a hand pressed to her head. Erwin suddenly calls her name, and she turns around, startled to see him. He leans against a wall with his arms crossed, his expression serious. She asks why he's here all of a sudden, and he simply confirms his presence. They stand facing each other in the opulent hallway. Heroine walks with her, offering her a drink, but she says their talk won't take long. After they sit down in a drawing room, she asks what he wanted to say. He sits down heavily on the sofa, a weary look on his face. Heroine brings up Marquis Casper by name, his expression serious. Confused, Lucia asks why he's mentioning the Marquis all of a sudden. Lucia points out he never said anything before, but Heroine retorts that things are different now. Heroine explains that he heard something about Marquis Casper, piquing Lucia's curiosity. With a worried look, Lucia asks what he heard, fearing it's something bad about Byrne. Heroine explains that the Marquis's last relationship ended when the woman suddenly married someone else. He passionately argues that the Marquis was a recluse for a year after the breakup, questioning if he's truly over her and declaring his opposition to Lucia's engagement. Lucia laughs, dismissing his worries by revealing she already knew about Vern's past. Stunned, Heroine asks how she could still agree to the engagement after knowing, and she simply confirms that she did. A concerned Heroine looks at her and softly says her name. Lucia serenely suggests that since Vern has experienced heartbreak, he'll be able to understand her better. Resigned, Heroine concedes that he can't stop her if that's how she feels. He stands up, vowing to teach Vern a lesson if he ever causes her trouble. She calmly agrees. She thanks him for caring, and he brushes it off as nothing. Heroine waves as he departs, bidding Lucia a good night. Lucia watches him leave, a gentle and thoughtful expression on her face. The next day, someone enthusiastically tells Becky that Lucia isn't breaking her engagement. A man named Lucas rests his head on Becky's shoulder, worried that Lucia will get hurt. Becky reassures him, saying Lucia is an adult who can handle herself, though Lucas remains uncertain. Lucas concedes that there's no point in overthinking it, and Becky agrees. Since Prince Eris is out, she leans in and suggests they take the opportunity to be alone. Lucas is startled by a visitor and calls out, "Arista?" A blonde woman named Arista appears at the door, greeting him as Brother Lucas. Lucas cheerfully introduces the woman beside him as his girlfriend Becky. He then introduces Arista to Becky as his younger sibling's friend, and Arista offers a polite hello. Becky smiles warmly, saying it's nice to meet Arista. Lucas asks Arista why she's here, and she explains she came to see Prince Ares, who is unfortunately out. Lucas offers his help if her matter is urgent, while Becky observes them with a sharp gaze. Becky abruptly stands, announcing she has work to do and must leave. Lucas waves goodbye as Becky walks away, her back turned to him. Arista watches Becky's departure with a pensive expression. Lucas turns back to Arista, asking if she came about the papers in her hand, which she confirms. She hands the documents over to him. As he takes the papers, Lucas remarks that she seems different today. He notes that her dress, heels, and loose hair remind him of Lucia, and Arista smiles brightly at the comparison. Arista playfully suggests that his girlfriend must be frustrated with him. Lucas asks about her fancy outfit, and she explains she's meeting her mother at the dressmaker's later. She adds that she needs to finish the paperwork quickly, and Lucas agrees to help. He confidently assures her that it won't take more than 5 minutes. Arista watches him with a soft, knowing smile. The scene shifts to a grand, sunlit drawing room. Arista stands patiently, while a woman fits her for a new blue dress. The woman informs her that the Duchess has requested even more dresses, much to Arista's surprise. Annoyed but compliant, Arista reluctantly agrees to follow the woman to see the other dresses. The woman leads her toward an adjacent room, where the dresses are waiting. Trying on another outfit, Arista complains that it's uncomfortable, and she wants something easier to wear. The woman Lisa is about to suggest another dress when someone calls her name from off-screen. As another woman calls for her, Lisa tells Arista she'll be right back. Arista watches Lisa go, her expression unreadable in the quiet room. A blonde woman relaxes on a couch, sighing that she can finally take a breather. Her eyes narrow slightly as she hears something. A man's voice suggests she should ditch someone and come to him instead. The blonde woman looks up, startled by the voice. She walks toward the source of the voice, a shadow stretching before her. A woman with light brown hair listens as the man insults a Lucas Agnes, and she wonders why her brother's name was mentioned. She recognizes the voice as her brother's girlfriend, her hand trembling at the realization. Tentatively, she peeks through a teal curtain. The girlfriend declares she prefers someone more masculine, like the man she's with. The woman gasps in shock, seeing her brother's girlfriend sitting intimately in another man's lap. Stunned, she reels back, asking herself what she just witnessed. The silhouette of her brother's girlfriend approaches as a voice calls her sneaky. With a determined look, the girlfriend decides to go out and confront the eavesdropper. The cheating couple emerges, the woman and a man whose eyes are hidden in shadow. From behind a screen, the woman in the brown dress watches them leave, utterly confused. As they walk, the man pulls his companion into a firm hug, saying, "Number?" The girlfriend wonders why the other woman felt familiar but dismisses the thought. The couple walks away, leaving the woman to watch them go from her hiding spot. Lucia's thoughts confirm the terrible truth. Her brother's girlfriend is cheating on him. Troubled, Lucia debates whether she should tell her brother about the affair. A maid approaches Lucia, noting that she must have been waiting for a long time. The maid offers a warm and reassuring smile. Lucia, lost in thought, gives a heavy-hearted yes. The scene transitions to a grand, sunlit estate. Later, Lucia arrives at a gathering with a smiling, long-haired man. A friend in a blue dress beams, thanking them both for coming. The man asks their host why only he and Lucia were invited, and she explains that she'll meet the others later. Beaming with excitement, the host announces she has an invitation for them. Lucia and the man look surprised by the mention of a party. Their host explains it's for her business launch, as another man hands them an invitation. The host encourages them to come to the large-scale event, and Lucia promises to attend with Byrne. The purple-haired man smiles charmingly as he examines the invitation. The host chides him for only thinking of women, but he playfully blames the ladies for not leaving him alone. He strikes a dramatic pose between the two women, joking that being handsome is a crime. Lucia watches his antics with a patient expression. The man, Brian, walks over, asking if Lucia is going to scold him too. He sits down, justifying his behavior as a small rebellion before his arranged marriage. The host notes he's always been a playboy, and he agrees he has more freedom as the second son. Lucia recalls that Brian's father was known to be very strict. She wonders if his rebellious dating is a reaction to his father's resentment. Her friend advises Brian to be careful not to be misunderstood by a future fiancé. Brian scoffs, asking what the point is when he isn't engaged to anyone. He cheekily suggests that he and their host get engaged, since their families are acquainted. She calls the idea horrifying, but he insists he was serious and feigns sadness. When Lucia asks if she's interested, the host flatly denies it. The host sighs, frustrated that a certain man hasn't replied to her messages about the invitation. Lucia looks concerned, wondering why he would be so busy at a time like this. The host decides she'll deliver the invitation herself, prompting Lucia's surprise. Brian teases his friend about her sudden change in demeanor, asking if she won't do something for him now. Arista smiles gently while wearing a simple pink dress. She considers her options and decides she'll need to get a new dress tailored. The scene shifts to a bright, bustling city street. Now, in a new purple dress, Lucia is asked by her companion if she'll be heading home after her fitting. She's not sure. She thinks it might be nice to look around for a while. Lucia smiles happily, reminiscing about how she used to visit the area often while attending the academy. A young man with dark hair notices her from a distance. He observes that there seem to be a lot of academy students around. One of the students gasps, spotting someone in the distance. The student excitedly asks her friends if they see Senior Henry, and they agree in delighted surprise. Hearing the name Henry, Lucia looks over with concern, recalling a young boy from her past. A handsome young man with dark hair and red eyes, Henry, smiles confidently with his friends. Lucia is shocked as she realizes it's really him. A warm, pleased smile spreads across her face. Lucia enthusiastically waves and calls out Henry's name. Startled, Henry recognizes her and thinks, "Big sister Lucia." He tells his friend he's going to quickly say hello. Henry runs to greet Lucia, who asks how he's been. He teases that she looks taller, but she playfully dismisses it. The academy girls watch from afar, whispering about how happy he looks and wondering who she is. Lucia internally marvels at how much the little boy who once proposed to her has grown, while he dismisses it as something from ages ago. When he asks what she said, she quickly replies it was nothing. Henry invites her to eat, but she politely declines due to other plans, suggesting they meet next time. Lucia recalls that someone named Christine said Henry didn't reply to her message. He explains he's been busy and hasn't spoken to his brother in a while. Lucia listens intently. Henry observes that she still only seems to care about his brother, startling Lucia, who quickly denies it. He realizes she truly hasn't been in contact with Heroine, leaving her confused. Recalling her earlier words, Henry's expression darkens as he thinks, engaged? He asks in shock if she's engaged to his brother, which she vehemently denies. Lucia calmly clarifies that Heroine is already aware of her engagement. Her companion gently reminds her of their shop appointment, and she agrees. Waving goodbye, Lucia promises to see him next time as she departs. Henry stands alone in the street, quietly processing her news. A mischievous smile crosses his face as he realizes she's engaged to someone other than his brother. He remains still, contemplating the implications of her departure. His friend approaches, asking who the woman was, and Henry replies that she's his brother's friend. The friend remarks that he's never seen Henry smile like that before. Henry looks away with a slight smile, casually agreeing. As his friend looks on confused, Henry quietly admits he likes Big Sister. He smirks with determination, deciding to use this opportunity for his own plans. His friend tells him to stop smiling so creepily. The friend asks if the woman was the Agnes family's youngest daughter, which Henry confirms. Feigning surprise, the friend reminds Henry that she's getting engaged soon. Henry coolly replies that he already knows since she just told him. He cheerfully stretches and tells his friends it's time to get lunch. As they walk, Henry reflects on how he never thought Lucia would be engaged to anyone but his brother. He thoughtfully considers that she seems happy and must have suffered a lot because of his brother. In the distance, a man resembling heroine walks down the street. Henry hopes his brother won't regret his actions later, concluding that Lucia has finally moved on. The scene transitions to a lavish, sun-drenched dining hall prepared for a meal. A blonde woman stands happily between a heroine and a red-haired man, who notes the party is quite elaborate. A man with long, dark hair holds a drink, thinking that heroine must not have shown up. As the man approaches, the red-haired man asks in surprise when he got there, while the blonde woman looks on. The scene focuses on a serious-looking man with brown hair and red eyes. Heroine observes the brown-haired man from afar, thinking he looks much better now. He recalls with a worried expression that the man was on the verge of dying the last time he visited. In a flashback, a younger-looking heroine knocks on the door, calling his own name. The brown-haired man opens the door, looking surprised to see heroine. Lying in bed, the brown-haired man looks up, appearing ill and tired. He sits up groggily, asking what's happening as heroine looks on. Heroine asks with concern if something happened. Sitting together on the bed, heroine asks if he's sick, but the man denies it. The man hides his weary face, saying he was just thinking. Heroine questions if that's all. Heroine smirks, playfully asking if he was dumped by someone. The brown-haired man falls silent, lost in thought. Heroine reaches into his coat, announcing he has something to give him. He holds out a sealed envelope, telling him to take it. The invitation is for Christine's party, who personally requested his attendance. The brown-haired man takes the letter with a slight sound of recognition. He asks if others will be there, and heroine confirms Lucia is coming with her fiancé. The man's expression sours as he asks if her fiancé is Marquise Casper. Heroine says yes, his face hardening with resolve. He decides he'll have to go to the party too. Back in the present, heroine muses that perhaps the man really was just sick. Heroine tells his friends he's going to greet other guests before the party officially starts. The red-haired man whispers that heroine is just going to flirt with ladies, and the blonde woman agrees. The brown-haired man joins the pair, looking serious as he surveys the party. The blonde woman looks around, saying she saw someone earlier but now can't find her. She and the red-haired man look toward the grand entrance doors expectantly. The blonde woman smiles with delight, clasping her hands together. The brown-haired man continues to scan the crowd with a somber expression. He announces he's going to find her, though the blonde woman insists she'll be back soon. He explains that he wants to greet Lucia separately and apologize to her before walking away. His friends watch as he walks determinedly toward an outdoor terrace. The blonde woman wonders why he's acting so strange, and the red-haired man asks if he fought with Lucia again. The scene shifts to a large, sparkling fountain in a garden at night. The brown-haired man walks alone through the moonlit garden. He looks around intently, wondering where she could be. He recalls a memory of Lucia asking him to cheer for her. In the flashback, she explains it's so she can get along with Byrne, reminding him they're friends. In the present, he regrets not being able to answer her back then. He clenches his fist, deciding he should apologize for his meaningless words that made her uneasy. He stops and questions if an apology is all he truly wants. He remembers lying in bed, realizing that all he could think about was seeing Lucia again. He pauses mid-step, his expression caught in a moment of realization. Clutching his chest, he questions if he wanted to see her simply to apologize. He stands silently on the stone path, contemplating his feelings. Startled, he looks up as if hearing something and calls out Lucia's name. He takes a purposeful step forward on the moonlit path. In the distance, he spots a woman with long hair sitting by the shimmering fountain. A gentle smile spreads across his face as he softly calls out her name. Lucia and the green-haired man sit together by the shimmering fountain. From the shadows, the dark-haired man watches them, his expression hardening. The green-haired man and Lucia gaze at each other tenderly. The dark-haired man sees his rival lean in for a kiss. A look of pained shock crosses the dark-haired man's face. Overwhelmed, he covers his mouth, unable to watch. He questions his own painful reaction, knowing they are about to be engaged. Clutching his chest, he struggles with his conflicting emotions. A determined smirk forms on his face as he makes a decision. With resolve, he turns and walks away from the scene. The green-haired man smiles gently at a blushing Lucia. He and Lucia share a quiet, intimate moment by the water. He softly calls out Lucia's name. Overcome with emotion, Lucia begins to cry as he comforts her. Flustered, she apologizes for her sudden tears. He looks down at her with quiet understanding. The scene flashes back to a grand, glittering ballroom. Byrne and Lucia present a bouquet to Christine, wishing her business success. Byrne politely suggests to another woman that they should talk again soon. Holding a bouquet, Christine flirtatiously tells the Marquis to send a letter anytime. The woman in the teal dress smiles. Observed by another guest, Lucia tells Byrne how amazing Christine is for pursuing her dream. She playfully reminds Byrne that he'll have to treat her very well. They both agree it's time to move on to somewhere else. Lucia smiles happily as she and Byrne walk through the bustling party. Noticing his gaze is fixed elsewhere, she questions what Byrne is staring at. She realizes he's looking at the wife of Viscount Lamario. Lucia worries, thinking it must be awkward for them to meet. The Viscountess approaches and greets Lady Agnes. Lucia returns the greeting. The Viscountess simply confirms her presence. After the Viscountess explains she came in place of her husband, she notes Lucia came with her partner. The Viscountess mentions their upcoming engagement, which Lucia happily confirms. Lucia turns to Byrne for confirmation, and he agrees. Lucia looks up at Byrne with a hint of concern. She worriedly asks if he's feeling unwell, noting his poor complexion. Byrne announces their departure, and the Viscountess quietly accepts. The Viscountess watches the couple walk away into the crowd. Byrne looks visibly distressed as they leave. Lucia beams with a bright, happy smile. Back in the present, a voice decides it's time to speak the truth. At the fountain, Byrne calls Lucia's name, getting her attention. He asks if she was already aware of the situation. Lucia feigns ignorance with a gentle smile. She admits she knows something, but isn't sure if it's the truth. She explains that she heard rumors after meeting the Viscountess at tea parties. Lucia reveals that the Viscountess directly asked if she was his fiancée. A heavy silence hangs between them under the starry sky. Lucia directly asks if the Viscountess was the woman he once planned to marry, and he confirms it. She gently asks him to tell her their story, but only when he is ready. Byrne looks at her with a soft smile and agrees. A green-haired man with glasses reads a book in a library. He recalls first meeting an orange-haired woman, thinking of her only as a friend. He remembers a woman named Celine, admitting he soon found himself smiling whenever he saw her. In the memory, Celine excitedly tells him she discovered an amazing place, and he asks where it is. She urges him to follow her, leading him to an ornate door which he identifies as the storage room. She tells him not to be shocked, as a soft creak sounds from her opening the door. Astonished, he asks what the place is. She reveals it's a secret room and she found a first edition of his favorite novel. He worriedly asks if they're allowed to sneak in, but she reassures him it's fine. She says they're only there to read, and the narration reveals the secret room became their hideout. They sit back to back on the floor, quietly reading together in their secret library. He reflects on the countless hours he and Celine spent there together. As they read, he softly calls Celine's name, and she looks up to ask what's wrong. They share a kiss surrounded by golden flowers, as the narration states they officially began dating. A caption explains their love was so deep that the whispers around them meant nothing. The happy couple holds hands, smiling lovingly at each other amidst pink blossoms. The atmosphere darkens as a caption ominously declares. But eventually the day came. A loud crash echoes through a lavishly decorated room. The green-haired man stands in stunned silence. A man with brown hair and glasses shouts, refusing to accept his son marrying someone so unworthy of nobility. The green-haired man defiantly vows never to abandon her, even if his father objects. The father sighs, asking if his son believes his objection is merely because she's a baron's daughter. The father reveals that Celine's father, Baron Jensen, has been borrowing money using their family's name. Shocked, the son learns from his father that his romance is dragging their entire house into ruin. The green-haired man looks on, his face flushed with shock and disbelief. His stunned expression lingers as the reality of the situation sinks in. The two men stand opposite each other in a tense, silent confrontation. He apologizes to his father, but firmly states he cannot break up with Celine. His father looks back, utterly aghast, and questions what his son just said. His father furiously asks if he has lost his mind over a woman. The son stands his ground, telling his father to cast him out of the family if he dislikes Celine. The narration explains he tried to protect her, but reality had other plans. The scene shifts to a carriage, waiting on a quiet city street. The green-haired man desperately pleads with Celine to leave with him, but she seems hesitant. He proposes they run away together and start over where no one can interfere. He holds a hand to his chest, showing his sincere desperation. Celine coldly asks if he expects her to abandon everything to follow him. She dismisses his plea as ridiculous, leaving him to call her name in disbelief. Celine calmly announces her intention to marry Viscount Lamario instead. The green-haired man stares in wide-eyed shock at her declaration. Celine explains the Viscount is wealthy, ensuring she'll live comfortably. She asks what she would have left if she ran away with him, ignoring his desperate plea. Celine coldly tells him he's useless to her now, and that he should forget her. He asks if she was only with him for his family status, and she smugly confirms it, calling him naive. Announcing her departure, she turns and walks away from him. He watches as she walks away down the street without a backward glance. He sits alone in a dark room, unable to recover from giving up everything for her. The narration reveals he shut himself in his room for a year, living like a hollow shell. Time passes, bringing another sudden change to his life. Not long after, his father passed away, leaving him to mourn at a gravesite. He recalls inheriting the title and burying himself in endless work to cope. Byrne reflects that he thought of seeing Celine again, but she was already with Viscount Lamario. Lucia looks at him intently and asks if he still loves Celine. Caught off guard by her question, Byrne can only respond with a surprised, huh. Realizing their similar situations, Lucia understands him, while he tries to refuse her sympathy. She explains that they both love someone they are unable to be with. Byrne tells her that's not the only reason he chose her, calling her too kind and wonderful. She dismisses the need for an apology, acknowledging they're in the same situation, but still hesitating. Inspired by Byrne's courage, Lucia decides to share her side of the story. She confesses she's had a long crush on Heroine, but her feelings were never returned. Before their meeting, she confessed to Heroine one last time but was rejected. She admits she may never love so passionately again, but found comfort with him. Byrne gently takes her hand, reassuring her that they aren't so different after all. Grateful, he admits he would have felt burdened if she had wanted love from him. Lucia asks if the same is true for him, and he sheepishly agrees. He suggests they should check, leaving Lucia to wonder what he means. He proposes they find out if they truly have no feelings for each other, suggesting love could blossom. Lucia thoughtfully considers his unexpected proposition. She looks at him directly and asks if he would try kissing her. Startled, Byrne questions her request, and she explains they must grow closer as a future couple. A knowing smile crosses his face as he considers her bold suggestion. With a soft smile, she asks if he would be her first kiss. He leans in closer to her. They share their first kiss by the moonlit fountain. In the tender moment, a voice softly calls Lucia's name. Her mind drifts to a vision of Heroine. She imagines a tender moment being held by Heroine. Lucia wonders what it would have felt like if Heroine had been kissing her instead. Her thoughts linger on the alternate reality as she remains in Byrne's embrace. Her eyes widen with a sudden, painful realization. She concludes that if it had been Heroine, it would have been even better. Byrne's hand gently pulls away. He softly tells her she doesn't have to say anything. Hiding her face in her hands, Lucia admits she can't forget Heroine. Byrne comforts her, gently holding her arm and calling her name. With tears in her eyes, Lucia looks up at him, startled by his touch. He vows that from now on, he will never make her cry. He smiles gently, guessing she felt something similar to what he did. Caressing her tear-streaked cheek, he says this moment has made him more certain about their future. He believes they will become a couple who truly understands and supports one another. Lucia gazes at Byrne, a sense of hope and understanding in her eyes. From the thorny bushes, Heroine watches their intimate moment with a smirk. The scene shifts to the grand facade of the moonlit estate. A blonde woman in a pink dress looks around anxiously, unable to find Heroine or Lucia. She decides to check the grounds one last time. As she walks along the stone path, she calls out for her honey. She stops abruptly, her face flushing in shock at something she sees. Behind a large pillar, a man and woman are caught in a secret kiss. The dark-haired man and purple-haired woman part, the man sensing someone is watching them. The purple-haired woman looks guiltily toward the blonde woman, who has discovered them. The dark-haired man recognizes the stunned onlooker as Lady Lydia, who asks how he knows her. The dark-haired man explains he visited the Lydia estate for a business investment. Lady Lydia appears, directly asking if the purple-haired woman is his lover. He hesitantly agrees. Lady Lydia asks to speak with the woman alone, and the man nervously agrees to step aside. He walks away, leaving the two women to face each other on the moonlit steps. The purple-haired woman questions their familiarity, but Lydia insists the issue is more important. Lady Lydia demands to know who the man was, noting he's different from the last one. The purple-haired woman looks flustered, asking who Lydia is even talking about. Her eyes widen as a sharp realization dawns on her. A confident smirk spreads across the purple-haired woman's face. She taunts Lydia, asking if she'll snitch to Lucas, and Lydia firmly replies, of course. The purple-haired woman smugly asks if Lucas would even believe her, leaving Lydia speechless. She continues, questioning if Lucas would believe unproven words that she's seeing multiple men. Lydia calls her out, but the purple-haired woman dismisses the confrontation as frustrating. She leans in close, whispering that without evidence, her actions mean nothing. She warns Lydia not to hurt Lucas with rumors, and then accuses her of having a hidden motive. The purple-haired woman mockingly asks if Lydia is trying to steal Lucas for herself. Lady Lydia clenches her fist, her body trembling with suppressed rage. As the purple-haired woman feigns surprise, Lydia looks down, utterly defeated by the accusation. Finding her voice, Lady Lydia shouts that she's right, and that she does like Brother Lucas. The purple-haired woman looks stunned, as Lydia declares it's a waste for him to be with someone like her. Recovering quickly, she smirks, retorting that Lucas will just think Lydia is jealous and will believe her instead. The woman claims her position as Lucas's girlfriend, but Lydia interrupts, stating the final decision is his. Lady Lydia gives her a final, determined glare before making her move. She turns and walks away, as the purple-haired woman calls after her to wait. Watching her rival retreat, the purple-haired woman smiles victoriously in the darkness. The scene shifts to a bright, sunlit room the next day. Yawn. Lucia wakes up, stretching in her bed. A maid named Sign enters, expressing her concern over Lucia's swollen eyes. Lucia asks if her eyes look bad, and Sign mentions that her mother fortunately went to bed early. As Sign gently dabs her eye with a cloth, Lucia dismisses her crying as nothing. Ugh. Sign playfully pokes her, teasingly asking if she got dumped again. Lucia smiles, explaining she simply had an honest talk with Byrne and now feels refreshed. Sign is relieved, and Lucia reassures her that nothing bad happened. After checking that the swelling has gone down, Sign offers more help, but Lucia tells her she can go. Sign smiles kindly and leaves the room with her tray. The bedroom door clicks shut, leaving Lucia alone with her thoughts. Sitting on her bed, Lucia admits to herself that she didn't exactly tell Sign the truth. She recalls the miserable feeling of crying, unable to stop herself from crumbling. She remembers Byrne comforting her and worries that their arrangement will only lead to more pain. Looking out the glass doors, Lucia observes that the weather is nice today. As she slides the door open, she stops in her tracks, surprised to see her mother. Her eyes narrow with a newfound sense of purpose. Deciding to ask for guidance, she sees her mother enjoying tea on the terrace. Her mother notices her and asks what she's doing here. Lucia explains she has something to ask. Her mother gestures to an empty chair, inviting her to sit down first. With a warm smile, her mother asks what it was she wanted to know. Lucia asks if her parents had a political marriage, and her mother confirms it. She then hesitantly asks when her mother came to love her father, who ponders the question. Her mother smiles fondly, offering to tell the story of their first meeting and revealing he already loved someone else. What? Lucia gasps, utterly shocked by the unexpected revelation. Her mother clarifies it was a one-sided love on his part and refuses to say who it was. She recalls her husband coldly telling her, "I'm sorry, but I will never love you." Her mother narrates that he remained cold until the wedding, and she expected no love from him. But then, the woman he loved actually showed up at their wedding, stunning them both. A wide-eyed Lucia asks her mother what she did in response. Her mother proudly declares she turned the whole place upside down and made the other woman leave. Chuckling, her mother wonders if that's when he fell for her, shocking Lucia with her cheerful attitude. Her mother smiles fondly. Remembering the moment, she explains that back then, arranged marriages were common and never perfect from the start. She continues, saying they were happy together and she eventually opened her heart to him. Beaming with joy, her mother announces that now they are inseparable. Lucia sees her own reflection in her teacup, realizing happiness can grow without love at first sight. A glimmer of hope appears as she wonders about her own future with Burn. She ponders if they too could forget everything and make a fresh start. The scene transitions to the grand exterior of an estate on a bright, sunny day. Elsewhere, Burn is busy writing at his desk in a sunlit office. He mutters to himself, deciding he should probably set an engagement date soon. He reflects on his recent emotional turmoil over Celine, grateful that Lucia's help kept him from faltering. Sighing with resolve, he realizes he can't postpone the engagement any longer. An assistant enters his office, announcing her presence. Burn asks if his guest has arrived, but his assistant says it's someone else. The assistant announces a visitor from the Lemario estate, catching Burn by surprise. She delivers the shocking news that Viscount Lemario passed away today, leaving Burn stunned. Burn learns the Viscount died in an accident while traveling, and he somberly calls it unfortunate. His assistant confirms the details as Burn stares ahead, processing the news. The thought of Viscount Lemario's accidental death echoes in his mind. He sighs, his immediate concern being, Celine, will she be all right? The scene shifts to Burn and Lucia having tea in an opulent sitting room. Lucia takes a sip from her cup, a worried expression on her face. Burn sits across from her, his head bowed in somber thought. Lucia calls out to Burn, snapping him out of his reverie. She mentions that she heard the news of the Viscount's passing on her way over. Lucia kindly tells Burn he can go to the estate if he's worried, but he starts to refuse. Smiling gently, she reminds him they were friends and insists he should offer his condolences. Burn concedes that she's right, quietly acknowledging his past friendship with Celine. He decides he should at least go and pay his respects. The scene transitions to the stately facade of the Lemario estate. A tearful Celine, dressed in mourning clothes, thanks an unseen visitor for coming. Her eyes widen in shock as she recognizes Burn, a scratch visible on her cheek. Burn stands before her, his hand over his heart in a gesture of sympathy. Celine looks flustered as Burn turns away from her. She watches him with a startled expression. Celine quickly stops him, correcting his informal use of her name to his formal title, Marquise Casper. Burn turns back, asking if she needs to say something, as she trails off hesitantly. The two stand apart on the sunlit stone steps of the estate. With a pained expression, Celine pleads with him, explaining how hard things are for her now. Later, inside, Celine tells Burn she feels lost and doesn't know how to continue living. Burn offers his condolences for her husband, but reminds her of her duty as the new mistress. Celine looks down, questioning if she even has what it takes to lead the Viscounty, muttering to herself. She dismisses her marriage as one that nobody wanted anyway. Burn stares in disbelief, asking, "What?" Celine covers her mouth, flustered at her own words. She begs him to forget what she said, and Burn calmly agrees. Burn stands up, announcing his departure. He walks away, leaving Celine to sigh on the couch. The scene shifts to the exterior of a shop called Rainbow Express. Elsewhere, Lucia calls out to a surprised Burn. As they sit together, Lucia asks Burn if he's feeling unwell. Burn rubs his eyes, admitting his mind was somewhere else. He recalls Celine's bitter words about her unwanted marriage. His thoughts race as he questions Celine's motives, believing she married for wealth. He clenches his fists, wondering if Celine is making him waver. Looking at Lucia's concerned face, he questions if he even deserves her. Lucia asks if something happened with the Viscountess, but he remains silent. She smiles, remarking that she didn't expect them to fall into silence. Burn apologizes, confessing that his heart honestly wavered for a moment. He smiles, his resolve seemingly renewed. The two face each other across the table once more. Lucia asks if he's sure, and he insists he's not acting on impulse. Taking her hand, he promises he won't let her heart feel uncertain again. Burn gives her a warm, confident smile. The scene changes to the grand facade of a stone castle. Inside, a noblewoman in a green dress sighs while speaking to a maid. The maid notes the noblewoman must be worried about the young master, which she confirms. The noblewoman laments that her son won't leave his room and she can't even see him. As she worries he isn't eating, the maid offers to speak with the head butler. The two women walk down a sunlit, ornate hallway. The scene transitions to the interior of a darkened bedroom. A dark-haired man lies awake in bed, his expression troubled. A voice calls out that it's mealtime, but he doesn't respond. He remains alone in his vast canopy bed. Tossing in bed, he thinks it's time to get a hold of his life, but can't forget what he saw. He recalls seeing Lucia's confession, initially dismissing it as just witnessing a friend's private life. A memory shows him walking away into the night. He questions his reaction, wondering what he would have done if it were Arista instead of Lucia. He remembers imagining Arista kissing another man. Clenching his chest, he realizes that the thought didn't bother him at all. He concludes that his long-held belief that he liked Arista was a complete misunderstanding. A radiant image of Lucia smiling with a parasol flashes through his mind. He despairs, realizing it's too late, as Lucia and Marquise Casper have promised their futures to each other. He resolves not to confess his feelings now, knowing it would only hurt her. He chastises himself for shamelessly rejecting her countless times, questioning how he could possibly confess now. Sitting up, he calls out for someone named Jerome, a man with dark hair and a low ponytail. Jerome appears at the doorway. The young master asks Jerome to bring him alcohol, saying he doesn't want to be sober. Jerome apologizes, seemingly refusing the request. Instead, he throws open the curtains, explaining that she specifically instructed him to do so. The man shields his eyes from the blinding light, confused. He looks up to see the noblewoman from earlier, recognizing her as his mother. As he gets out of bed, he asks when she arrived. She replies that it's been a few days. His mother explains she was in the capital on business and couldn't see him due to his own orders. He sighs that she should have said something, but she admits she didn't realize he'd stay secluded for so long. She asks if he heard any outside news during his isolation. He quietly confirms he did not. His mother reveals Lucia is getting engaged to Marquise Casper soon, and he hasn't even congratulated his childhood friend. Panicked, he asks how much time is left until the ceremony, but she says he will have to ask Lucia. Speechless, he collapses back onto the bed in despair. His mother looks at him with concern, calling him heroine. She begins to ask him a difficult question as he clenches his fist in silent anguish. She asks if he fought with Lucia, but he smiles weakly, denying it. Confused, his mother wonders if he fought with someone else, or was perhaps dumped by Arista. Heroine laughs it off, claiming he's not a child, but his mother thinks he still seems like one. A young man with light brown hair peeks through the doorway, addressing the madam. He informs her that a guest has arrived, to her surprise. She instructs the young man to escort the guest to the drawing room, wondering who it could be. Back in the bedroom, Heroine's mother notes that an unannounced guest is strange. Jerome speculates that if it's the young lady, an unannounced visit wouldn't be unusual. Hope flashes in Heroine's eyes as he wonders, did Lucia really come? Heroine leaps up and frantically asks Jerome how he looks. Jerome deadpans that he looks the same as usual. Sighing, Jerome suggests the young master might want to wash his face. Jerome watches his master go, wondering why he's suddenly greeting a guest after days of seclusion. Now dressed formally, Heroine walks purposefully down the ornate hallway. He stops before a large door, his body trembling with nervous energy. Clutching his chest, he admits that even if it isn't Lucia, his heart is pounding. He takes a moment to compose himself before facing his visitor. Inside, a beautiful blonde woman sits patiently, waiting. Heroine firmly grasps the golden door handle, ready to enter. The blonde woman, Arista, waits with a gentle smile. He enters the drawing room and stops short, asking, "Arista, why are you here?" Arista smiles, explaining she came to see his mother, who is sitting beside her. His mother starts to explain, but Heroine cuts her off. Looking away with clear disappointment, he dismisses it as nothing. Arista invites him to join them for tea, but he pauses, hesitant. His mother excuses herself, saying she has something to attend to. As she leaves, his mother sternly warns him not to lock himself away again and tells him to sit. He walks over, explaining to Arista that he just had some things on his mind. Sinking into the sofa, he realizes he has been far too comfortable with Arista. He reflects that he'd never act this way with Lucia, questioning if he mistook comfort for love. Arista notices him hiding a smirk and asks why he was so gloomy earlier. She continues, confused by his sudden grin, and asks if he's sick. He brushes it off, saying he remembered something funny, which piques her curiosity. He looks directly at her and calmly states, "I actually thought I liked you." What? Arista is utterly flabbergasted by his out-of-the-blue statement. She demands to know since when he thought he liked her, exclaiming that she had no idea. He guesses it was probably after he saved her from the ogre, causing her to facepalm in embarrassment. He explains that being with her felt uniquely comfortable and special. He then reveals his epiphany. The thought of her marrying someone else wouldn't bother him at all. Arista sips her tea with a smile, asking why he's being so random. Her eyes widen in sudden, horrified realization as she connects the dots about his recent mood. He quietly confirms her unspoken suspicion with a simple, "yeah." With a somber expression, Heroine confesses, "The one I actually like is Lucia, but I realized it way too late." The blonde woman stops, asking what Heroine just said as he thinks about how he kept rejecting her confessions. Her eyes widen in shock as she processes the truth. Lucia confessed to him repeatedly, even after their time at the academy. In a fit of temper, she demands to know if he rejected every single one of Lucia's confessions. A dreadful realization dawns on her as she asks if he used her as an excuse to turn Lucia down. He quietly confirms that he did, and she calls him an absolute lunatic in disbelief. Her expression softens with concern as she asks if he intends to tell Lucia any of this. He firmly states he could never tell her, especially now that she is engaged to Marquise Casper. The blonde woman notes that back then, Heroine hadn't realized he had feelings for Lucia. He gives her a knowing look as she whispers his name, Heroine, with a pained expression. An awkward silence falls between them as they sit on opposite couches. The blonde woman takes a long, weary sip of her tea. The scene transitions to a grand, moonlit estate at night. Later that evening, Lucia tells Byrne she had a wonderful time, and he thanks her. Byrne gently suggests that she must be tired and should go inside to rest. He leans in and gives her a tender kiss on the forehead, promising to see her next time. He watches as she turns to leave. Lucia pauses before her door, her hands clasped together thoughtfully. A maid greets a smiling Lucia, who confirms something with a simple, "yeah." Lucia reflects that since opening her heart to Byrne, spending time with him has become much more comfortable and pleasant. The maid turns to her and asks about the invitations. Lucia explains she wants to inform their friends first, and the maid nods in understanding. As the maid departs, Lucia watches her go with a determined look. She steels her resolve, convinced she's on the right path and won't let her feelings sway her again. A gloved hand elegantly writes on a card with a quill pen. Focused, Lucia sits at her desk and begins writing out the party invitations. She lets out a small sigh, realizing that including Byrne's acquaintances will mean writing a lot of invitations. Stretching with satisfaction, she announces she has finished the invitations for Christine and Arista. Looking at the remaining envelopes, she notes that Brian and Ethan are next. Holding the last few cards, she thinks of Heroine with a gentle smile. She diligently writes out the invitations for Brian and then for Ethan. She pauses, quill in hand, as she picks up the final sealed envelope. Closing her eyes, she allows herself a moment of quiet reflection. With a bittersweet expression, she begins to pen the invitation for her childhood friend, Heroine. 2 elegant carriages, one black and one white, wait outside on a stone road. At a party, Lucia sits at a table with Arista, Brian, and 2 other friends. Lucia, now in a lovely pink dress, smiles, feeling happy. She greets her friends, explaining that she has been quite busy lately. A woman in a purple dress clasps her hands in delight, excited about the engagement date for Lucia and Marquise Casper. Brian notes that the schedule might be tight, but it's fine if some people can't make it. Lucia glances around the room, noticing someone's absence and wondering why Heroine didn't come. A friend mentions Heroine hasn't been reachable, while Arista adds that he hasn't been going out much. With a worried expression, Lucia wonders if something has happened to Heroine. Arista touches her arm reassuringly, explaining that Heroine said he wasn't feeling well. She continues, laughing, that she briefly saw him when she stopped by his estate. Lucia worries if anything bad happened, but Arista dismisses it, saying he just has a lot on his mind. Arista waves her hand casually, suggesting that whatever it is has been bothering him. Lucia looks down, thinking that Arista must be seeing Heroine quite often. She reflects that while she would have been jealous in the past, she feels okay now, realizing she has changed. Lucia stands, announcing she is going to greet the other guests, and Brian agrees. As Lucia turns to leave, Arista stands and calls out for her to wait. Lucia smiles as a serious Arista asks if they can talk for a bit. The 2 women face each other in an elegant, sunlit drawing room. Lucia smiles warmly, remarking that it's a shame Heroine couldn't come. Arista looks away with a troubled expression, quietly acknowledging her words. Turning to Lucia, Arista comments that the engagement seems sudden, since they haven't known each other long. Lucia confidently explains that she and Burn discussed it thoroughly before deciding together. Arista reluctantly agrees with Lucia's confident declaration. Sighing to herself, Arista realizes this is only because Lucia doesn't know Herwin likes her. As her face darkens with an internal conflict, she recalls Herwin telling her not to say anything, prompting a concerned Lucia to ask what's wrong. Arista suddenly stands, her expression determined. In a flashback, a flustered Lucia insists she and Herwin just ran into each other, and he confirms they are only friends. Back in the past, Arista sips her tea, calmly accepting their just friends explanation. Returning to the present, Arista thinks about Lucia's past pain and feels she can't let her go on without knowing Herwin's true feelings. Arista declares she has something important to tell a surprised Lucia. She firmly suggests that Lucia should go talk with Herwin. Arista watches Lucia's reaction, her gaze unwavering. She clarifies that what she has to say is something she heard directly from him. Arista reveals she knows what Herwin truly feels inside. Lucia looks up, her expression a mix of concern and confusion. Lucia laughs it off, jokingly asking if Arista is about to say Herwin likes her. Her playful demeanor vanishes as she points a finger at Arista. She tells Arista not to joke, insisting that she of all people knows Herwin doesn't like her. Arista flinches, stunned by the conviction in Lucia's denial. She quickly clarifies that Herwin's supposed feelings for her were just a misunderstanding. With a weary sigh, Arista explains he mistook friendship for love. Lucia looks away, dismissively suggesting he probably never thought about it deeply anyway. Her expression turning cold, Lucia tells Arista that he must have misspoken, prompting a worried Arista to call out her name. Arista implores her to go see Herwin and ask him for herself. A dark aura surrounds a shocked Lucia as she thinks, now? Lucia asks what hearing Herwin's feelings now would even change. Arista explains that not knowing and knowing but choosing anyway are two very different things. She reaches out, assuring Lucia she won't push, but desperately wants her to hear the truth herself. Lucia stands frozen, her gaze fixed downward as she processes the revelation. Later, she sits alone in a grand room contemplating the idea of speaking with Herwin. Arista reflects that while it's nosy, she can't bear to see Lucia like this, regardless of the consequences for Herwin. Lucia admits to herself that, like Arista said, she does want to find out the truth. Standing on a balcony, she worries about how Burn would feel if she went to see Herwin. She takes a decisive step forward on the stone balcony. Lost in an ornate swirl of thoughts, she wonders what on earth she should do. Lucia clutches the railing, her heart heavy with indecision. The scene transitions to the exterior of a stately mansion at night. Vern is surprised to see a visitor, asking what brings them there so late. He recognizes the visitor, calling out Celine's name. He turns to leave, suggesting they talk tomorrow because it's too late. Celine quickly grabs his arm, stopping him from walking away. She insists they must talk now, pleading with Vern for just a little of his time as he looks on silently. Celine smiles brightly up at him against a backdrop of glowing blue flowers. The two sit opposite each other in a dimly lit drawing room. Celine nervously clasps her hands, stating she heard he set a date for his engagement. As Vern listens intently, she quietly utters his name. Vern explains that Viscount Lamario's sudden death was unfortunate, but hopes this situation won't repeat itself. Celine clenches her fists, looking down with a pained expression. Vern states that the engagement ceremony details are set and warns Celine not to speak ill of Lady Agnes. Celine looks up desperately, asking what if she still likes him, leaving Vern momentarily stunned. Vern dismisses her confession, saying he'll pretend not to have heard, but Celine insists she is serious. She confesses that she never forgot him, even during her marriage, and deeply regretted not running away with him. Vern reminds her she claimed to love him for his wealth, but she tearfully insists it was all a lie. In a flashback, Celine recalls a time when Vern's father came to see her. She explains his father promised to cancel a debt if she ended her relationship with Vern. Celine reveals that if she had refused, her family would have been ruined, dragging him down into debt with her. Crying, she admits she rushed into marriage to forget him, but found it impossible. Vern clenches his fist, remembering her cold departure and contrasting it with her confession now. He abruptly stands, declaring he will act as though he heard nothing. Vern tells her to compose herself before leaving, saying he will call the butler for her. Alone, Celine collapses onto the sofa, sobbing and apologizing to Vern. The scene shifts to Lucia, who seems distracted and lost in thought. Her companion points out that she keeps walking right past their destination, asking, "Huh?" in confusion. The woman smiles, amused by Lucia's absent-mindedness. Lucia smiles back, slightly embarrassed by her own distraction. She reflects that her mind has been preoccupied ever since her conversation with Arista. As she walks, a voice from behind calls out, "Sister!" Startled, Lucia turns to see who called her. She recognizes the man, asking, "Henry?" As he greets her, saying, "It's funny to meet again." Henry asks if she's out shopping, but she explains she just needed to get out of the house. Confirming she has no specific plans, Henry smiles with an idea. He points out that it's lunchtime, a subtle invitation in his gaze. As he suggests they eat, Lucia hesitates, thinking she isn't very hungry. He happily suggests a regular spot of his and offers to pay for their meal. Lucia politely objects, insisting she should pay, but he waves it off, saying it's his treat. Eagerly, he takes her hand and tells her they should go quickly. He leads a surprised Lucia down the street by the hand. From a distance, her companion calls out an apology for their sudden departure. 2 plates of steak are served at an elegant restaurant table. Henry remarks it would have been nice if Cian had joined them, wondering if he made her uncomfortable. Lucia assures him that he is not the reason for Cian's absence. Henry casually asks how his sister has been, to which she replies, she is the same as always. He gives her a warm, gentle smile from across the table. Lucia smiles back peacefully, closing her eyes for a moment. Suddenly, Henry slams the table in shock, shouting, "Wait, already?" Lucia calmly explains there's no reason for delay, but Henry remains unconvinced. Thinking to herself, Lucia realizes Herwin probably doesn't know about her engagement yet. She recalls hosting an announcement party that Herwin failed to attend. Henry asks why Herwin didn't go, and Lucia silently wonders the same thing. She recalls Arista's impassioned plea for her to confirm Herwin's feelings for herself. Lucia muses that Arista will probably tell her the news about Herwin soon enough. Henry frowns, angered that Herwin would ignore an invitation from his childhood friend. With a faint smile, Lucia simply says she wonders why too. She apologizes for her momentary lapse, but Henry reassures her it's okay. The two continue their meal, the conversation momentarily paused. Outside the restaurant, Lucia thanks Henry for a great meal. He asks if she's returning to her dorm, but she plans to visit home. Henry offers to tell his family and brother about her engagement, which she appreciates. He then invites her to his house, suggesting she tell him the news herself. Lucia politely declines the offer with a strained smile. She waves goodbye to Henry before parting ways. Walking alone, Lucia suddenly feels that something is strange. She admits to herself that facing Herwin scares her, afraid she'll start to hope again. She worries that any expectation she holds will be crushed. Lucia resolves that it's best not to see Herwin for a while. The chapter 100 and first confession comes to a close. The scene shifts to a different day. As Lucia arrives home, a man with dark hair notes that she's returning late. A confused Lucia explains she was only out for a short while. The dark-haired attendant worries that the young master isn't happy to see her. Lucia faces a stern-looking Herwin dressed in a formal uniform. She confronts him, asking why he ignored her invitation to the engagement party. Herwin avoids her gaze, asking if she had something else to say. He dismisses his attendant, Jerome, who agrees to wait in the carriage. Jerome walks away, leaving Lucia and Herwin alone to talk. Lucia smiles, playfully guessing at what he might want to tell her. Herwin's serious expression makes her trail off with a simple, "Ah." She quickly dismisses her thought, deciding it couldn't possibly be true. She concludes that Arista must have misunderstood Herwin's feelings. Beaming, Lucia sincerely hopes Herwin will attend her engagement ceremony. Herwin asks her pointedly if Marquis Casper is a good person. She confidently assures him he is, or she wouldn't have agreed to the marriage. He quietly wishes her happiness, and she thanks him. Lucia announces she's going inside and tells him to return home safely. As she begins to leave, Herwin watches with a pained expression. He suddenly grabs her arm, stopping her in her tracks. Startled, Lucia asks what he's talking about so suddenly. She expresses concern, asking if he's sick, but he denies it. With his eyes shaded by his bangs, Herwin tensely says her name. Surrounded by a floral aura, he prepares to finally speak his mind. Overcome with emotion, Herwin covers his mouth before confessing, "I like you, Lucia." Lucia is rendered speechless by his sudden confession. Seeing her silent shock, Herwin anxiously calls out her name. Lucia finally speaks, asking if he's sure it isn't a mistake this time. She reminds him that Arista had told her his feelings for Arista were just a misunderstanding. She questions if his feelings for her are also a mistake, cutting off his attempt to speak. With a sorrowful look, she recalls how he always denied liking her. A pained smile graces her lips as she thinks about his sudden change of heart. Heroine passionately insists he's serious after days of contemplation, but she interrupts him. She sadly reminds him that for 13 years, he consistently said he didn't like her. Heroine apologizes with downcast eyes, admitting he was foolish. As he tries to explain he thought she was just a friend, she turns away, cutting him off. Walking away, she tells him that she believes his feelings are real now. She firmly states she doesn't want to be hurt anymore and asks if he understands. Heroine stands alone, dejected, as she walks away from him. With a heavy heart, Lucia says she is going inside. A creak sounds as she pushes open the heavy front doors. Heroine can only watch as she walks away from him. She walks silently down the grand, empty hallway. A man's voice surprises her, asking why she's back so soon. Seeing her expression, he worriedly asks if something happened outside. She walks past him without a word, lost in her own sorrow. Standing alone, tears well up in her heartbroken eyes. Sobbing, she resolves that she can't let Heroine sway her anymore. She slaps her cheeks, telling herself to get a grip before the engagement ceremony. She tries to wipe away her tears, but the pain remains. The next day, the scene transitions to a magnificent mansion. Jerome knocks on a door, announcing it's time for the young master's sword practice. He waits, thinking it's strange for him to ever miss practice. Announcing his entry, Jerome opens the door with a creak. He gasps, his eyes widening in shock at what he discovers inside. A woman with braided hair looks at him with concern, asking, "Jerome?" Jerome frantically tells the madam something is terribly wrong with the young master, and she urgently asks what's wrong with Heroine. As an image of a feverish Heroine appears, Jerome exclaims that he thinks the young master is sick. Night falls over the stately home, casting it in shadow. Jerome stands before Heroine's mother in the hallway. She asks how Heroine is doing, and Jerome reports that he has just fallen asleep. She worries, noting that he had never been sick, even as a child. Trying to reassure them both, she says he will get better soon now that he's taken his medicine. She asks Jerome directly if something happened to Heroine. She explains that Heroine only gets sick when his heart is weak, wondering if an incident occurred. Jerome looks away nervously, at a loss for words. He internally reveals that the young master recently realized he likes Lady Agnes. He continues his thought, believing Lady Agnes has lost interest, prompting Heroine's mother to call his name. Jerome bows deeply, apologizing and stating that he shouldn't be the one to tell her this. She dismisses him with a thoughtful but troubled expression. Jerome walks away, leaving her alone in the hall. She pieces things together, realizing he got sick after visiting the Agnes mansion, and wonders what happened. Sighing, she decides she needs to visit the Agnes mansion to see her friend and find answers. In his room, Heroine groans, sweating in his sleep. He slowly sits up in bed, looking weak and dazed. Lost in a feverish haze, he stares blankly ahead. He realizes with a pained sigh that this is not just a simple cold. He clutches his chest, feeling a sharp pain as if his heart were pierced by a thorn. It dawns on him that this is the same pain Lucia must have endured for years. Crushed by the feeling, he thinks he has never felt a pain more agonizing than this. The scene shifts as someone's footsteps approach the room. A black-haired attendant enters, carrying a tray with a meal. He asks Heroine if he is hungry, but Heroine quietly refuses. The attendant insists he must eat, but Heroine remains silent and downcast. The attendant asks if he's feeling better now, to which Heroine flatly replies, no. Heroine looks up, a faint, pained smile on his lips. The attendant accepts his master's decision and agrees to leave him be. As Heroine turns away in bed, a knock sounds at the door. Assuming it's his usual attendant, Heroine tells Jerome that he doesn't need any food. With a start, Heroine sits up in bed as his mother enters the room. He looks up at her with a feverish gaze, weakly asking, "Mother?" Her heels click on the floor as she approaches, remarking that it's been a long time since he was last sick. Sitting beside him on the bed, she gently touches his hair and asks what happened at the Agnes mansion. He looks away nervously, unable to find the words to answer her. Heroine remains silent, his expression hidden as he looks down. Sensing his turmoil, his mother gently asks if something is wrong. He admits with a pained expression that he believes he left an indelible scar on Lucia. As he expresses his deep regret, his mother looks at him with profound sadness. She comforts her son, gently patting his shoulder. Understanding the gravity of his words, she realizes it must not be a simple matter. She tries to console him, suggesting it's fine, unless he committed a crime. Looking up at his mother's reassuring smile, he quietly agrees with her. Her heels click again as she walks out of his room. Hurrying to catch her in the hallway, an attendant calls out, "Madam." Jerome informs her that she is welcome to visit, and she sincerely thanks him for the message. She immediately asks for the carriage, and a surprised Jerome questions if she is leaving right away. With a determined chuckle, she confirms her intentions. The scene transitions to the magnificent Agnes mansion under a bright sunny sky. Herwin's mother sits for tea with Lucia's mother, who asks how she has been doing. Lucia's mother explains she's been busy with preparations for Lucia's engagement ceremony, noting it's as important as a wedding these days. A young man appears at the door, and Lucia's mother exclaims in delight, "Oh my Lucas." Lucas smiles at Herwin's mother, thanking her for coming all this way to greet him. Lucia's mother mentions that she heard Herwin visited recently, which clearly surprises his mother. Finding it strange, Lucia's mother says she was never told Herwin was there, while Lucas looks on intently. A sly smile crosses Lucas's face as he internally wonders what is going on.